Test, test, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm sure you guys can hear me. If you're popping in, just leave a comment that you're here, say hello, and tell me where you're at. We're broadcasting to Facebook, the 707 101 group, for you guys over there on my YouTube channel and on my Twitch channel as well. If you guys need any of that info, go ahead and I'll be popping those up in the comments of each section. Let's get them right here. Here we go. Don't mind me as we get going. I just want to get streaming for you. Go ahead, head over to that YouTube channel and g'day, Tasmania. All right. Love it. Thank you for tuning in over there on YouTube. We'll get started in a moment here. I'm just getting everything tidied up and ready to go, making sure everything is as it should, and then we'll fire it up. Let's get YouTube also going here. Make sure we do have sounds in the moment, and we'll get our creativity on. If you got any questions you want to pop them up in the comments, go ahead. I can see them all, and we can kind of go from there. But I'm going to just start building something from scratch. We'll start with fresh pattern on the TR8S and the fresh project on the 707. And I'd actually like to focus on the 707 a bit and show how to set up and create a template and the reasons why, and we'll take it from there. Alright, we're up there. Let me get the YouTube link for anyone on Facebook or anything else that wants it. Let's get here. Here is the link. There we are. Head right there. Audio Dukes, what's happening over in the UK? Thanks for being up. Nice time in the morning. Hopefully you have some tea or coffee, whatever you're feeling there. Get your day started right. Alright, we'll get it going here in just a second. Just need to do one tiny little detail, and we'll be in. As everyone see what we got going here. Error occurred sending. Let me know how we're going in. I know the volume might be a little bit low on this one. We will get it up here, and I will get something going on the system so we can hear a little music being played. Let's see what we got for volume. It's a bunch of noise right now. Hold on. I just want to make sure we have sound. Bring that up for you. Let me know if this sounds good to you guys. And make sure I'm not blasting myself out in the room. And we can get it up to a nice level. That turned off. Spacey. Alright, we do have sound. We got this. Let's do that. Disconnect. We'll be back in action in just a momento. Maybe a few momentos. If you are tuning in right now, let me know if anything that you are interested in. We can take a peek at some stuff just to fill everybody in on what we kind of got going on here. We have the 8S and the 707. Right now I have the 8S as my master clock and kind of my master start stop for everything. Over on this end on a separate channel for my mixers, everything's going kind of into my Studio Soundcraft mixer. Jupiter XM has its own channel. I have the RC505 and the SP. These aren't currently connected to anything at the moment, but if anyone shows, if we get enough interest, maybe we'll dive into those. I did just get them, so I am still myself getting 100% grasp on them. Once I got that, you know, I'll be sharing all that info with you guys, coming out with some good tutorial videos for everyone, how it might work in scenarios that are not exactly what everyone else uses them for. Turn that down for now so we're not all drony. We've got a few boutiques if you're interested in those. My main keyboard controller is the A300 Pro by Roland. I really like its simplicity, it has a good feel to the key bed, and let me get that up there, sorry. I like my octaves are here, my transposes. I do have the ability to split upper and lower MIDI channels on this, so I can go one or the other, or I can do a split and split my keys to a lower MIDI channel and an upper MIDI channel, thus controlling two separate channels either on the 707 or anything else like that, and have those split, or I can do a dual where it plays both channels at the same time. These also are easily MIDI mappable controls, CC parameters, and you can even go as far as assigning these to at least 8 of the pads for drum tracks on the 707. Okay. Sorry, we're up on kind of a crane thing here, so it gets a little bumpy. So that's controlling everything there. Kind of any tone tracks. Let me get up here. There we go. With the 8S, it passes through the 8S into the 707, which passes out to a quadra through MIDI solutions box. It splits one MIDI into 4 outs. That way you don't have to have everything chained. But I have it controlling all my boutiques there. The 2 on the end, the 06 and the SH are not plugged in at the moment. MX1 mixes all my boutiques, and it also mixes the 101 and the TR6S and these 2 racks of modular. All that go into the MX1. It all runs again off the TR8S as the master clock at the moment. I'm not hard set on that, but it seems to work for me very well, so I stick with it. Other than that, everything syncs really nicely, starts and stops really nicely. I'll say my one partial gripe is that I have no way, and if you have a boutique, you know that generally when you MIDI sync it, it just starts and stops a pattern, so you essentially just have to create maybe a blank pattern on pattern 1. So, Rusky, how you doing? Thank you so much for tuning in, and Audio Dukes, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, we'll get through some tips and tricks definitely on the MC707. I like to fill you guys in on shortcuts and whatnot and stuff like that. We'll dive into that and how I like to set those kind of things up. Let me get my 707 started up. I had to make sure I had the most recent firmware. I wasn't sure if I downgraded or anything, so we're all set to go. Give it a quick, and then we'll get going. All right. 11 people joined in. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you can, in the chat, I can see chats coming in from YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. If everyone's there, I can kind of check on you guys. We'll get it started up right here. I know there might be a bit of a delay on each one, so please forgive any delayed responses. I'll keep trying to look up as much as I can for this. All right. Let's get it going. I'm going to get these other guys up to date on a couple other groups. I'll have them join us over on the YouTube channel, and then we'll go. So I definitely do have some tips and tricks as we get into the 707. Hacks, a little bit. I can show you a couple things. I use it pretty straight out. I don't get crazy with it, but I do have it controlling multiple boutiques through here. And I do like to, I'll show you my setup, and it might be a hack, it might not. We'll see. I might be a hack. All right, let's get into it. I think everyone's good here, and I want to make sure everyone can hear me okay. Let's get going. So I want to start first off with the 707, okay? 8S we'll get into, but that's mainly just my drums that I use for most of my setups, and I let the 707 become synths and samples. I'm hearing somebody, hold on. Oh, I'm hearing myself come back through. Let me mute myself on my computer. That's why. Okay, let's get in there. Zoom a little bit out. You guys are going to have to bear with me with this, okay? We're just going to go on the fly how this goes. So, with the 707, a little bit louder. Yeah, not a problem. We could definitely do that. So, I'll get my volume up there. I know I have a problem with speaking quietly, but I could fix that, right? There we go. Okay. With the 707, I'll go ahead and I'll start a new project. And I'm going to just run in and do kind of a template quickly. If there's something you want to know a little more deeply about as we move along with it, we can discuss that. Not a problem. Just toss that up in the comments. Like I said, I could see everybody here. Right? With a new project, I don't like to run drums on my first one, so I'm going to delete out my 2-track, or at least track 1 as it is. I'll just push up to highlight the entire track. You'll see the entire column light up. Then I'll just choose delete with my C4 and delete the track. I'll replace that with a tone track. Now this is just my setup. You could do how you like, but I'll explain why, and also some more general information about setting up a template that'll help you in creating projects and actually being able to import clip rows and whatnot from other projects within your project to keep going. But so I do 3 tone tracks here that become my internal tone tracks. So 1, 2 is already a tone. 3, I choose a tone track. 4, 5, 6, they're going to be tone tracks as well, but they won't have any sound to them. I can have the option if I wanted to layer these in, but these 3 right here control 3 of the external boutiques that are sent out MIDI channels through the chain. So this is usually my JU06A, the Juno, and this is my SEO2, and then this one recently became the JD08, which I've fallen in love with. If you haven't got one, pre-order it. I don't care who makes it. This thing's a beautiful thing, but Roland did a great job of bringing that JD800 in a small form factor. Anyway, so I run the JD or sometimes the TB03 depending on what I want to use. Track 7, I make a drum track. Okay. Now I don't necessarily need this for additional drums. If I do, I tend to use maybe the bottom row here and bring in my own sounds or whatever that I want to use for additional percussion. Like I said, the 707 is my main drums. If I need anything more, I can pull from this track, but I do like to leave it for my own imported one-shots, whether I want to record some other loop or if I want just a vocal hit or something like that. The drum track is going to hold more sample time than a looper track. So I don't rely on my looper track for loops. Not long ones, at least, if they're just a couple fill things or maybe a vocal thing that I've done on my own, whatever. Or generally I use it to mix down 2 or more of the other internal tone tracks. Or multiple samples off of track 7, play those at the same time, get those mixed into a loop. You get the idea. Which means track 8 I always keep and reserve as a looper. Now, you can, if you're going to make one drum track on your MC707 or even your 101, this applies. I do recommend, I didn't, but I do recommend making a drum with compressor track. Right, so let's clear this one out real quick so you can see that. The difference being in this is if you are going to get some percussion and drums on it, you might as well have those 6-channel compressor available to you. So if you get serious and want to do a mix down and really get those sounds coming out nicely and gelled together on that drum track, it gives you the opportunity to run them through a compressor first. So even if you don't use it, it's still there and it's a nice thing to have. So I'll go ahead and do that myself. Drum plus compressor. All right. Now I know I got compressors if I need them. and you should use them. Get to know compression, drum compression, and you can really learn how to bus all your instruments to each type of compressor, and you can get the best sound out of your drums and not need to find additional samples that sound how you like them anyway. Okay, so that's how I set it up. 3 internal tone tracks always. These 3 control external synths, and if I can work it and decide to get creative, I can use the internal tones on these and bring the volume up on them, and that will actually blend this with my synths. Now, I don't need my boutiques coming into the 707 through the external in or anything like that, because I have the MX1 and I have a studio mixer. Now, if I was to bring anything out like this gig-wise and I brought the MX1, then I would run the MX1 into the external input of the 707. That way it's running through here, and this would be kind of my onboard mixer. I just run it through the external in channel. I wouldn't put it on a track. I'm not looking to affect anything on there. The MX1 has the effects I need. Just basically a mix point. Okay. Any questions from anyone? Is everyone hearing okay? Doing good? Doing okay, okay. I just want to make sure everyone's all right here. Checking the channels. Good. All right. I'll keep moving on. So I run these tracks right away. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to turn these tracks sound sources to clip instead of track. Now you might have heard a lot of this stuff in the groups. If you're asking in the group about sound, and everyone always advises you to turn your tracks sound source to clip, and it's a great idea to do, and once you understand the effectiveness of it, you'll be able to essentially change all your tones on tone tracks to something different if you want, and even different drum kits on every clip if you want. And not only is that beneficial within a project, but when you go to import clips from other projects, it will be put into a clip in a track that is the sound source's clip, so it's going to bring with it all its tweaks and its effects and everything. So that sound and that sequencing comes in and sits there nicely, and it's not going to mess with it because your settings aren't based off of the track settings. It is clip-based settings. Now, if that sounds a little confusing, that's okay. Just know to set them to clip. To do this, hold Shift and press Select, right, on one of these tracks. The first thing that comes up is sound source. We can go ahead and pardon the live zoom. Okay, that should work. This is how you get it. So sound source is your first one. It says track. If you use C4, just scroll over to clip. Now, you can stay right here in this menu and just choose your next track, clip, next track, clip, right? Next track. Even do this for the ones that you do external sequencing with, because that means you can still put internal tones down there with it and maybe run the same sequence with a backing sound, whatever, you'll see. Okay, all the way, the drum track as well. Looper doesn't give you that option, and that's okay because you don't need to do that. Everything can be different on each clip. It's just a loop playback device, right? Yeah, it's a very, very good feature to use. Don't get carried away now because it is 128 voice, and if you start loading up all this crazy stuff on each clip, you can be jumping around and stress. So don't go too wild is all I can say, and test it as you go. Okay, don't get ahead of yourself. As you go with each thing, perform with it, play with it, make sure it's working to how you like it. So I've tested it to my extent of making up to 9 clip rows, okay, for each track, and moving between those, going between basically three songs. And so each clip has different tones. It's easier to move within the tracks to different clips and kind of smoothly transition from one song to the next. And being able to use scenes and mix and match your clips, you can really extend out a song's length in the way I do it. So, okay. Anyway, looper track doesn't give you that choice. All your other tracks, quickly go make sure clip, 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 clip. Okay? That's the most important thing. Next thing you'd want to do, if you are doing any kind of audio insert, which means using any of the return inputs or the external inputs. Now those can be run for mono, so you can run 4 mono instruments into here. Okay? or 2 stereo, or a combination of 1 stereo and 2 mono. You get the idea. And these inputs can be assigned to tracks. Now, if you are using these for external synths, like for instance my boutiques, but I didn't have the MX1 and I wanted to bring the boutiques straight into their tracks, I would set track 4 to whatever input on that audio insert. I would set track 4 to whatever that audio insert's going to be. Return left and right, or external in left or right. Being that I'm going to want mono on each one of these, I could say I want my Juno to come in on the external in left, and then on this track I want my SEO2 that can come in external in right, and then my JD can come in the return. I got that going stereo, so it's just, I want to use it stereo because it's got some great stereo effects on it. Return left and right. So I've taken out my return signal, come back in, but now those 3 synths have their own dedicated channel with level faders. Not only that, but you can use these knobs to affect the sound coming through, or you can even use them to control parameters or knobs on that external synth sending MIDI CC messages. All you need to know is those MIDI numbers for that external device. You find that on their website, wherever it happens to be. Any documentation will have the MIDI implementation. When I do the SEO2, I really like working the cutoff, of course, the resonance, of course, and then I like to use an octave shift on the effects knob. And then I just unassign these because I'm not using any audio in my setup, so they don't actually affect anything within the machine. They're simply just sending CC messages to change a knob on the SEO2. Okay, I'm going to set all these back because this is not how I would set up, but that is how it would be if that is how you're going to set up. Assign that track to the input you want the audio to come through. Okay. Next, I'm going to, since I am setting up these to control external devices, I do want to go into their menus again and go over to the MIDI tab with the cursor, and then I got to turn on which MIDI output I'm using to go. All of mine are going out MIDI out 1 right now to a quadra through, so it splits. So all my external control is running off of MIDI out 1. TX means transmit, so I do want to transmit on this channel out MIDI out 1. Okay, if I wanted to control any parameters on the knobs or sliders of the Juno for my specific, I would turn this on, then I can assign my knobs to control things on the Juno, on the JU06. If I want the clips that I create on track 4, which are the sequences for my JU06, because my boutiques are used as sound modules essentially, I do all my sequencing of them on the 707. With that being said, I can send a program change message. When I turn this on, each clip that I play can be assigned a number, and when I change to that clip, it'll send that message and change to that patch number on the JU06. So if you're working through songs or you want your sound to change on your external module to go along with everything else, you'd set up the program change number. Make sure this is on to allow all that to happen on the track. Okay? We'll definitely get into looper tracks. I think that's one big thing that a lot of people like to get a little more understanding of. So definitely want to get into that. And great topic, Audio Dukes, definitely. Yeah, Rusky, I can imagine that. Are you going through and just recording the MIDI and trying to import that, or are you just hand transferring, listening, and trying to recreate on the device? That's homework. And down here is where you would actually assign, if you had those MIDI control change turn on, your filter, mod, and effects knobs for that track, right? You'd assign your CC number here, which would correspond to the external device. I'll tell you right now, if I go to my SEO2, I want to set it that the filter is number 74, which is always the filter cutoff, not always, but it's the filter cutoff for the SEO2. My mod's going to be the resonance, and that's a 71. And then, like I said, my effects knob is the octave shift, so I think that is number 112. Oh my, it's 110 or 112. I'm going to say 112. We'll keep it there. You could also assign the sound CC number. Now I know that's not a physical knob on the 707, but you can do motion designing with it, and you can do other modulation with it or external control because it can be set to be controlled. This is also so when you go and use the 101 or transfer projects, the 101 does have 4 knobs. It has a sound knob. So this way, those parameters that you might have motion recorded on the 101, when you import that project into here, those motion recordings will still be present for that sound knob. Anyway, if you wanted to assign that sound knob to also control something on the external, you have that option here as well. I'm going to turn that one off. No off, okay. 0 is fine. It's not going to move anyway for my purposes. Alright, so that's all your MIDI stuff for each track that you're going to want to get into at least. I'm not going to get into all this other stuff for the JU except to turn it on. Again, I'll go turn on for track 5 as well, my SEO2, and track 6 for the JD. Now I know all those have control change for the SEO2, but now all those have MIDI out going on, so I can send and play and sequence those external synths with the SEO2. Yeah, sometimes insomnia does work. Good to see you, Isaac. I'm glad you could join, man. How you doing? So, here, like this is a fun thing about the BAM. I could do this kind of stuff with the streamer thing. That's the life of a musician, my friend, right? Can't sleep. We get in the studio. So, now we've kind of laid out that kind of stuff. My last thing I do before I kind of give it a save and a name, the rest kind of will come, is in my project menu, go to your settings. Your first thing, project level, crank that to 127. This will eventually get toned down. As you play out, you'll turn this master volume down, but that's only after you've really started adding your effects and then adding your final kind of mix down or your master EQ and compressor and that kind of stuff. That's there we go. And master EQ, and then as that stuff comes up and you start building your stuff, you can find that this might come down a little. But I like to crank it right to there. Gives me the maximum volume out of my project. So that's just what I do. Anyway, that's kind of set up how it is, and then I'm going to want to give it a quick write. You could call it whatever you want. A template. This one I could call my boutique template, right? So just so you know, C1 scrolls back and forth. This goes through alphabetical, uppercase, lowercase, numerical, and symbols, right? And then this will change them. So I could call this, boutique. Make it fun, boo. Boo temp. Alright, how's that? If you go to the next, you can make it, lowercase. Not the most efficient way to do it. Not my fault. I just work with it, right? That's all we can do for now. Hopefully one day they'll give us what we want. We all want an editor and librarian. Boo temp. I'll just call it that, right? And enter. Yes, I want to write it for my boutiques. This is telling me that this template has control of the boutiques in it. If I was to make a different template where maybe I wanted to run all internal synths only and didn't need to control any boutiques because I wasn't taking them or whatever, I got rid of whatever, any situation, I could have a template made up, pop it in, and I'm ready to start creating. Now the nice thing about this is now that I have the template, I can go into my project menu again. I could go to manage, go ahead and find that one and lock it. Okay, once it's locked, you can exit. That just keeps you from ever deleting it or ever saving over it. Now, what I would do, honestly from here, I could start creating, but if you go to save again, just call it, something different, like whatever your project name is, right? Oops. We'll just call it that. Now that I've just named it something different, now it's an actual project, not the template, because it has a different name. I've left the template alone. I can start making my stuff. There. So I'll just leave it at that. So looper tracks, well, we could get into a few different ways of doing this, but looper tracks, the way they can be used is either recording an external input, whether it's your audio inserts or through PC, the USB. You can do that. You can have anything on your computer play into here and capture it on a loop, on a looper. So the 505's like, oh, okay, I got you. Very cool. Recreate, checked it. It took forever. I bet it did. Yeah, and samples on the drum tracks. Right, I want to get into that sustain versus no sustain and test out a few things. So we could try and put a longer loop in and hold it to the recording and see how it does, and if it does stop along with everything. It has been also noted that it doesn't do that, so hopefully there's, I don't know, some kind of fix. It would be good, because generally you do when you hit stop. It'd be nice if everything just stopped, especially long loops. I can understand maybe effects, but any kind of loop, it should just cut all playback of all sound. I do like that things like that sometimes carry on, especially when clip chaining, because I want sometimes the sound that I had the effect on, I want the effect to at least carry through to the next clip. So I can see both sides, but I definitely would like the option that when I actually physically hit that stop button, that it does stop playing. You know what I mean? All loops and everything. So we'll test a couple theories out in that, okay? There is a lot of variation between, yeah, because it's a retrig depending on how you're Isaac. Yeah. Timing wise, definitely the if it doesn't carry over and you actually re-trigger, it's hard to create that drone unless you go in and figure out something that's re-triggering the sound. It could be the LFO set on a retrig, or an envelope is set to retrig, something like that. So you're hitting it again, and when it does, it resets the sound. So it's harder to get a weird drone sound. So some things will do it, some won't. So it's pretty tricky. We could try and look into that and make some drony sounds. And it's also part of the reason why I like additional gear, but we'll try and keep a lot of focus on the 707 where you guys want to look at. But sometimes that's why I bring in my Euro rack, my drone machines. So, but we'll look into that too. We'll do some drones, we'll do some loops and samples. That sounds good. So, yeah, the tone track acts differently than a. Can't post comments. Okay, fine. Oh, to groups, whatever. Sorry, just getting info that I can't post comments to the 707 group. So sorry if you guys aren't seeing it. Maybe the Facebook guys I'll bring up on screen. Looks like everyone's on YouTube. Awesome. Thanks for tuning in. All right. So we could back off a little bit here. Look at the looper track. Okay, so we'll go a little over looper tracks here. Talk about how is best to use them. I tend to use mine. I'll import either a WAV file. I'll choose it, choose clip, and you can either pick something from another project, right? Or what do you get? Shift? No. What am I doing here? What am I trying to do? I don't want to bring it from another. Why am I having a brain fart here? I don't want to bring it from a project. You can't record, right, to create the clip. Why am I not remembering how to just import the clip? Let me think about that while we're doing that. You do have to set up some settings for it, right? I'm having a major brain fart. Could be the long day. Someone could chime in if they remember. That's a good idea, Isaac, definitely. Since you guys mostly on YouTube, you probably see each other's comments, so don't need to really post them up on the screen, but that's a great way to dedicate a track to do that kind of stuff. It's fun if you have all those different keys within your clips and you could drone between them. Anyway, great idea. External in, if you are recording something live into it, you will need to decide if it's mono or stereo on the external input only, not the return. Okay. And then your source. Do you want it from the external in? Do you want it from the PC? We could try and do the PC there. See if we could pull anything in from that. I don't know what we have. We'll figure it out. Okay, and then record measure. How long you want to record them for. All the way up to 8 measures. Can't go any further because it's only a measure. Clips. Let's just say we want to do 4. Now this is essentially just set up to record sounds into it from an external input. And you could do it off a drum track. You could play that and get those sounds, or if you've sequenced drums into it that go along with another track, that kind of stuff to mix in. I'm still not getting why I can't. Let me think about this for a minute. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time. Not projects. Is it only going to do other projects? Am I just having a reason? Just so used to doing the shift record. And on drum pads you can put in a WAV file, but I thought, am I losing my mind, guys? Can you confirm this for me? A looper track, can't you just import a file? Just like I'm trying to import a clip. Not working, trace sound. Duh. See? I thought I hit that, but I was hitting shift sound. That's what a lot of people wanted to. They wanted these switch because they thought shift sound to pick the sound sounded better than hitting sound to adjust the sound. Now I agree. Alright, back in action. So yeah, one way is to go through your files. Simply hit sound on an empty clip slot. I wish I could go out and edit that whole section. You'll find your exported files, anything that you've exported onto the SD card from any of your projects. You go in there, and unless you've named them yourself after exporting them, they will all have export and a number after them. You can see I'm up to 45 samples that I've created on the machine and put on the SD card, so I haven't bothered naming them. If you need to go back, left arrow or cursor, right cursor will go in and out of folders, right? Then you can go to splice or vocals or listen to stuff. If it's just a file, you can. I know they get loud. Turn it down. Right, and an 85 BPM might not be the BPM that you're set at. So it's going to try and speed it up. Now they have an algorithm for rhythmic stuff, and they have an algorithm for melodic stuff. There's those 2 types. The rhythm is the 2, the melodic is type 1. We'll look at that in a second. I think I need to speed my brain up here. Okay. And lift the camera. Alright. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, Isaac, shut up about Dr. Track. I'm kidding. I'm not a hater. I've never used one. I might love the thing. If anyone wants to give me one, I'll eventually buy one of those. I'm intrigued. Yeah, it's I don't permanently use looper tracks unless I can honestly say I don't permanently use looper tracks unless it's just a couple things in a song. Like I took what was it, End of the World, as you know, REM, and I used that, but I brought those in, like I recorded it onto the looper track coming in, and then it time stretched it, and then I took it and chopped it up from that, put it on pads on the drum track. So I only use it temporarily to record something in for its time stretching purpose. So another thing is sometimes I'll get mostly either vocal loops, because they don't tend to be too long for me with the loopers. If it's anything that's of any length or I'm going to be using a lot, I'll definitely just put it on a drum track and just leave it that way. Because if it needs to be time stretched, record it into the looper, and then from the looper just, I don't know, I can show you here. Something you want to bring, vocals. Vocals can be, let's see what we have here. See if we have anything worth listening to. Nope. Can't wait. I hope they... Ugh. I hate how loud these samples come in. Okay, that one. Nope. Okay, whatever. That'll work. So you could import this into the looper, and then you get automatically it time stretched, right? We'll just bring that one in. And it's kind of a longer sample. That can be quite a bit of 60 seconds, honestly. It's a good 5 seconds, 4 seconds. 60 gets eaten up quickly, and that's only a short little thing. So, yeah, and that's great, Isaac. Great idea if you can take your time and edit your samples so there's good chops before the start and end, and they're at the tempo that you want to use in a project would be great. But yeah, doing it that way is also a great idea. So we've loaded a clip, right? And we have our external, it's at 100, so let me get everything else turned down. What else? I don't want anything else on there. Off. Okay. So it's definitely slower, right? So you can either, I don't think I'd have it at this tempo, but I'd probably play it around this tempo. So I got that tempo. Now, you can either go into this, right, into the sound. Now I should be able to go shift sound. Edit would be nice if you can get into chopping it. You can. You can export it and then import it, but that seems like a long way around to get into chopping up a sample. So instead of doing that and doing the whole export, renaming, all that kind of stuff, you can go shift record. Choose your record source as track 8, right? And then test it out. I usually do the trigger, I do a -24 because that's a very low decibel range. Almost everything except for swelling pads or slow rising attacks are going to start over a -24. Anything less is really noise that you don't need. So I'll hit enter to capture it and then get ready to hit enter at the end of the loop. I'll even capture sometimes a little bit over, so I have a great place to cut the endpoint for a nice loop if I wanted to. Because it's already tempo synced, I'm going to take it off the looper. So I'll hit enter, I'll hit play, and it'll start recording. And I'll get ready to stop recording. So I cut right there a little bit of the ending of the repeat loop, so I know exactly where I can chop it to have a perfect loop if I wanted to apply the entire loop to a drum track. So now that I have it, I'm going to go to my drum track. Okay, I'm not going to lose the sample. And then I'm going to pick where I want to have it. I don't use cowbells much. Okay. And then from there, I could chop it up, see how it goes, but I want to kind of end it first. So I'll turn the endpoint. You can zoom in close, so you can get a pretty good zero crossing, which is what you kind of want to do. You can get to where there's no wiggle, little wiggle. Kind of want to hit the zero so there's no click or anything like that, or a pop on a repeat. Okay, and then you can hold funk. So now with it like that, you can cursor over to with the preview position and slice. I might go a soft slice and see what it does. because I think otherwise it might get a little too quantized into these little transients. Let's see what it does. We can always make it a harder slice. Choose which one you want with C3 and hit C3 like a button. And zoom in a little so you can see it. So now it's kind of chopped its areas, and you could turn C2 to check each slice. Funk. So we want those two to connect, right? That should be soul. We got funk, soul. We don't have it, so we go to the first one, and then all we do is, let me, so you can see it a little better. I want you to see the whole. Hold clear, and hit position 2, C2 like a button. Okay. It's going to take away the endpoint and add in number 3. So now we have, right? Now we have our positions. Okay. And you can always fine tune that point in between. We know that's too short, so let's add this second part. It's catching a bit of that roll, but maybe we want rock and roll together. So again, we hit clear when we're on that position, and it adds the next one.
Rock and roll.
Right. Sound like we got a little bit of the next one, so we could go to our end point, zoom in a little more. And when you adjust the end point, it jumps to focus in the middle on that end point. Find your spot. So we can make that right here.
Rock and roll.
I'm getting this. Maybe we don't need all that right there, huh? Get rid of those little clicks.
Rock and roll.
That's fine. We're chopping it up. Okay. Zoom out a little. So maybe we just want these first ones just because we like our progress so far. Cursor arrow over to our position. So we got funk.
Soul, rock and roll.
We have funk, soul, rock and roll. We like funk. Maybe we want to put it right here on our first pad, right? So we just press that pad with that slice selected, and then press enter. Right? And then move our position. Hit our next one. Enter. Go to position 3.
Rock and roll.
Hit our pad. Hit enter. You can do this all the way through all your chops just like that, so you can.
Rock and roll.
Okay. So it's an easy way to bring something you sampled into the looper or something that you imported into the looper, just a WAV file, and then chop it up this way. So there's other ways if you went in and tried to select a WAV file and then the whole editing, but if you're trying to get larger sections that might be more rhythmic, then you're going to want to kind of put it into that time stretch, so it gets you that at least your sections that are going to be in beat or in time with something, it'll have them in that tempo of your project currently. Does that make sense to you guys? It should be possible. Yeah, definitely with that lo-fi sound. I've been working a bit on since I've never made it myself, but it interests me. So how that sounds, and trying to get some of those it's that swung hi-hat with everything else kind of staying around. You get that kind of stumbling hi-hat. Like it's like a broken beat. Okay. No, Matt. Some cowbell, sometimes. Yeah, I've seen some guys. Chris, DJ Cool Out. He works with the MV1, but on the 77 stuff and MV1, he's made some nice lo-fi beats, and a couple of the other guys are working on it. It definitely should be possible. It's all in there, ready to go with it. The tricky part with getting the shuffle on certain instruments is you'd probably have to double up a drum track and make a track of just like maybe hi-hats. So it'd be a drum track, it'd just be different hi-hats if you wanted. But then you'd be able to take those clips on that track alone and add some very stumbly, shuffly, because you could add the swing to the clips, right? You could do swing to it and have a bit of off steps and unquantized stuff. So it's quite possible. I bet you it's amazing with people who know that genre really well. So yeah, it's the 7.7 really allows you to make quite a bit of what you want. I've actually done a few classes on this where some of the guys were making backing tracks to a rock band, rock and roll, and they played it, but they wanted to be able to create those extra sounds and add some, other synth layers in there and drive some of that percussive stuff. And he said he was having a great time doing it, and the stuff he was making was sounding really good. So it's nice to see people make something you wouldn't expect or that you don't make. And you're like, wow, it does that too? And I really love hearing people make some drum bass. Like Exile, Devin, man, he kills it with this thing. So he knows how to play it. Like if you want to know how to play it, jeez. Yeah, some people use 4 tracks for drums. And if you have real percussive centric sounds that really have deep layers of sounds, a lot of IDM will do that kind of stuff. Drum and bass will do some of that stuff. It's having those little sounds here and there. And they're not all the time, but I see how you can definitely use 4 tracks of drums. I love drums. So that's how I would go about taking something like that. Now, the nice thing is with this whole thing, kind of broken up. If you need to take it all the way back, you can just hold clear and just keep hitting your positions. It'll take it back to what it was, right?
So rock and roll. Don't stop till it hits the soul.
And then let's take our endpoint real quick because I forgot we had that there. So you could, if you set this up nicely for a loop, now you could take that section right there, set it to the end, and go ahead and enter that. Now that that's all loaded, I can exit out of there. I could come over to my looper track or clip, delete that clip. Now I got my 60 seconds back on my looper track, and I have on my drum track.
So rock and roll. So rock and roll. Don't stop till it hits the soul.
Right. And you have that just making silly whatever, just so you can follow along.
So rock and roll.
Oh.
Don't stop till it hits the soul.
Here's where we're going to use that sustain, see if we can get to stop doing that. Okay. The other thing I wanted to do was phone. We don't need 4 bars right now. Although this needs 2. There. So now it should play 2 bars with just a kick on it.
So rock and roll. Don't stop till it hits the soul. So rock and roll.
See if it loops.
Don't stop till it hits the soul.
So you can hear it. One, it fades because we all know you don't have the sustain up or the decay and sustain. The time's up in your envelope. But what Rusky was having problems with is you want it to when I hit stop, I want even that loop that keeps going to stop as well. Now someone had that issue where Isaac, I think you've seen it. Rusky, you might have. You guys in the group, remember we had the couple ways you could do this. One of the ways was going to this pad, right? Shift. Bringing the pad up in the kit edit screen. Okay. Wait. Wobbly. Okay. And then you can hit enter for this pad, right? And go to the edit and get over to your envelope, your amp envelope, all the way at the end, AENV. And then boosting all your levels should be up, but boosting these times, your time 2 and 3 really. 3 is most important. Holding shift, getting all the way up to 1023. Now it'll play all the way through.
funk, soul, rock and roll. Don't stop till it hits the soul.
It doesn't fade out.
Funk, soul, rock and roll. Don't stop till it hits the soul. Funk, soul, rock
Right?
and roll.
But we want to stop when we hit stop. So let's try what we were going to try. What the other person said was, instead of doing that, go into envelope mode and change it to sustain. And what he was saying in effect is, as long as I hold that pad, it will play at full volume, and when I let go, it should start its fade out. Now what I'm hoping is, in that sense, that when I hit stop, since it's only a sustain, hopefully it'll stop or fade out quickly. Rusky, I think you said you were also trying that. And it might not have worked. Mike, you're not joining late, man. I'm going for a few hours. There's no real direction, just whatever you guys want to see. Yeah, my pleasure, man. It's cool. So Isaac, did this happen to you? Yeah, I can't get the sample to stop. So we could try it this way. Okay, so I'm back on this. Oh, did I change that one to? That wasn't there. I meant this one. So, envelope mode. Now, I think we are going to. Let's see what happens with it just sample. So it fades pretty quick. Let's get in here to the edit again. All the way over to the envelope times. Let's take our sustain all the way down. Right, there we go. So now,
funk, soul, rock and roll. Funk, soul, rock and roll. Funk, soul, rock and roll.
so now we have no release, right? No sustain, or the sustain doesn't matter because we're holding it for the sustain.
Don't stop till it hits the soul.
So let's see if we could do record.
Funk, soul, rock and roll. Don't stop till it hits the soul. Funk, soul, rock and roll. Don't stop till it hits the soul. Funk.
Ooh. No, turn the record off.
Funk, soul, rock and roll.
Ha! Are you guys hearing this?
Funk, soul, rock and roll. Don't stop.
No, I stop.
Funk, soul, rock and roll. Don't stop.
I stop. It works. So, did you understand how I did this? I'll go over it again, whether you did or not. Just because I want to make sure I understand this better so I can explain this better. What I did was, generally from this kit edit menu, if you put a long sample on a pad, by default you're in no sustain mode, and it tends to fade out based off of that sustain time in this menu. Okay, we'll get into the menu in a second. So you're really running just the times as what dictates your sustain and whatever. Now, your sustain mainly. If you go to sustain mode, you have to hold the pad, and you'll see it goes bright and then dim for your sustain because you're holding on to that pad. It goes on and it plays the loop as long as you hold the pad, especially if you set the release to 0, because then when you let go, it doesn't fade out, it just stops. So, first thing you do is, you'll see yourself here when you select a pad, right? Any pad you go to, you're on level, chorus, release, reverb, or what you see. Hit funk. Envelope mode shows up, right? Go to, it's on no suspect, if you're Among Us player. Sustain is what you want. Set it to sustain, then hit enter. Go into your instrument edit menu, and then cursor, or I think C2 will do it. Scroll all the way to the last tab, which is your AENV, or your amp envelope. Okay? From there, scroll down, C3 or your up and down, right? See, I like the knobs, it's fun. You're not banging a button. And then go to your times, envelope times. Time 1 is your attack. Okay. Yes, more cowbell. Okay. Time 2 is your decay, right? This is how long it takes to reach the sustain level. The lower your number, the slower it takes, the longer it takes to get to your sustain level. If it's above your sustain level, it doesn't really matter. Or I mean, if it's below the sustain level, sorry. If your sustain level is lower than your decay level, it's going to hit, your attack's going to bring you up to your decay, and the decay is going to decide how long it takes to get down to that lower sustain level. Anyway, that's if it was running on its own and you're just hitting it with a trigger, not doing it yourself. Okay? Time 3 is your sustain. If we were in that sustain mode, since we're in no sustain mode, this is dictated by how long we hold it. And then when we let go, how much plays is the release, or time 4, right? This is if I crank this up, it fades. You can hear it. I don't know if you can hear it, but as you increase the time, it'll take longer for that sample to fade out. So if we set our 3 and 4 to 0, I'm not going to mess with 2. I'd rather have it at top. So when I hit full velocity, it goes to top. Right? Once those are set, you can exit out. Now when you sequence, right, you're going to want to, we'll clear this step. So now there's nothing, right? So what we can do is we can hit our record. We get our count in if you want a count in. I'm not going to worry about that. We'll get it playing. Have your pad set up, and you're going to want to hit and hold for the length of the sample that you have recorded, right? 2.
Funk, soul, rock and roll. Don't stop till it hits the soul. Funk, soul, rock and roll.
Turn your
Don't
record
stop
off.
till it hits the soul. Funk.
Since you are holding it and sustaining it, it will turn off when you hit stop. Is that cool? Does that work? I think that works. Don't tempt me, Matt. I'm going to make kits upon kits of just tuned cowbells. It's going to sound like a herd of cows running by. Cool. Awesome, guys. I love that we found that out. There we go. So it's nice to know that we have that ability to stop it. So that's a great way. I'll definitely update the video on that, on how to fix that fade, because that'd be a good part 2 to that. Okay, so besides looper importing sounds, right, from projects or other WAV files, you can record multiple tracks onto a looper track, right? So we'll get back to this one, but I want something that's kind of got something going with it. Go to the most recent one I was messing with. I call it lo-fi, but it's not really, because it doesn't have that. I'll go ahead and write it. Funk enter for the quick one, right? If you're just doing an overwrite, I'm sure everyone knows that. If you're just saving over the same project, kind of like a progress save, if you do shift funk for the save and then you immediately hit funk enter, it just takes it to the processing. Because if you hit enter, you got to, oh, now I got to confirm crap. So to avoid the confirmation, just funk enter, and it goes right to that. You're already there. Shift funk, funk enter. Okay, just a side note. This is only because everything else is kind of going with this. So now we could talk about, after we've built a project, some other things. We get into the looper track a bit more, samples on the pads maybe a bit more if you want to talk a bit about that, and talk about external control and sequencing of things and anything else. Was that a live record? Not for the funk soul rock and roll. Where can I get this from? I want to pull a sound in to the 707 from something. I mean, I could. I'll just have to power cycle it. I could pull up like YouTube real quick and just play a video and capture that sound. Y'all like Alan Watts? No. He's pretty well sampled. No one gets in trouble with that, right? So if you do something like, okay, we're going to do Alan Watts on the Eternal Now. I'm not going to care where it's at, we're just going to get into something. Okay. This is going to take, where are we so I can see what we're doing? I need to see myself. Okay, make sure everything's good. Yeah, foofy. Yeah, 707. So, Rusky, you're asking that live record, was that the vocal sample? No, it's just a WAV file I brought in. I know a couple guys were talking, well, I'm not sure if it's you, that the time stretch on the looper does sound strange when you're recording something that is tempo synced already. If something is connected, like an external synth, and you're bringing the sound in and it's already MIDI synced and bringing it in time, I would almost forego the looper just to avoid any kind of possible artifacts that it might be trying to time stretch or anything like that, and go straight to the shift record, the sampling recorder. You get a little more time, you can get it, and if you record just past your, like I showed you, your actual loop length, you can go down and cut it to a nice perfect loop and then place it on a pad and avoid using that 60-second looper or the artifacts that the looper might, because it's a different type of time stretching, right? So we'll say with this one, let me see what happens when I play. I know my... I gotta go ahead and reset all that stuff. Okay. Lesson 2. Setting up MIDI. Let me get this so we can... This will work proper. MIDI sync, keep it in auto unless you want to designate specifically, unless you got MIDI coming, tempo sync coming from USB and MIDI, designate. Right? If you want to send your sync out, I'm not using 2. I'm using USB, and I'm going to restart this thing anyway because of my USB vendor mode. I find to pull in the PC onto at least a track, we could try it without first, but let's see what happens. I find to put it on a track and get a stereo, you have to turn your USB to generic mode, and it'll take a stereo signal off your computer through PC. And you can run it through and add effects that are on your tracks. Anyway, here, my track channels, 1, 2, 3, 4 is actually 9. I don't expect this to make any sense to anybody. 11. I think that's what it is. Channel 6 is 13, I think. I'm going to go 14. 7 is 7. 8 is 8. Okay. If you guys don't know, the MIDI RX auto channel, that allows you to run, like I do, the external synth or an external device. Can back it out here even more. So you can run like this keyboard. I have it running, right? So if I set my keyboard to channel 12, and this is channel 12, whatever track I select on here, this keyboard will play. All I got to do is switch tracks. 2 benefits. 1, it's instantaneous. 2, I can have 1 octave set up here, and I can have my pads down here maybe set for just bass octaves because you're not doing chords, so you can just hit 1 note at a time for bass and then keep your keyboard up here for upper octaves. So that's your RX auto channel, right? Don't think I need to set any of this other stuff up. I did a factory reset, so that's why it's like this. Okay, everything should be fine. Okay. And then call scene type 2 is one I use. Okay. We'll try the vendor, see what we can get. Okay. Then I'll show you how to get into if you want to put it on track, see if this will work. Alright, to bring in the PC, I think that's where we were, right? Because we want to record something onto our looper track live. Okay, Isaac, dedicating iPhone to the USB on 7.7. Nice. Yeah, right now my computer that my desktop is connected to the 7.7 because I was running it into Logic, recording project settings, PCN. Oh, okay, good. I want to make sure my level's all the way up, so I should hear it coming in, just based off, I think, computer output. I'll set these settings up. Sound. Output. Connect to 707. So, okay, I think I can. No, you guys can't see it. Doesn't matter. I'm just choosing the output on my computer as the 707. Oh yeah, now it's coming out. You can hear that back. Okay, I'm not going to talk just for this, and then bring something up so we can hear it, and then we'll try and record it. Okay, I'm not going to talk just for this, and then bring something up so we can hear it, and then we'll try and record it.
But until there is silence of the mind, it is almost impossible to understand. Eternal
Yeah, see, it's not coming up through the
life, that is to say, eternal now. When you are fully aware and not thinking.
See, I think this way. I'm going to stop this right now just for the... Okay. So, I never got it to work that way by just keeping it in vendor mode. That seems to be just allowing me to send audio multi-track out. I can never get PC in unless it was actually through like a specific DAW or something like that. So I've always went to generic mode for it to work because we had our PC in up, right? And we're setting PC levels up and we're hearing it, but we can't record it. So it's just kind of playing it in. Because even though we had our record source on PC, it wasn't picking up the PC. It was just kind of playing through it. So what I do, go settings, oops, control down to USB driver, right? Change it to generic, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn off and back on. Rescue having trouble with sample sequencing a long sample on a single pad and extend just with the sampler. With the drum track? Or which sampler? Sample sequencing. On a single pad. Good job. Thanks, Facebook user. I'm not getting names and stuff. I think it's because it's in a group or something, so it's behaving rather weirdly. Thank you, Arthur. I can see you on the, there we go, on the page. Hopefully that's caught up. Okay. Back to this. Just tone track. Okay. So you're putting a... Are you putting a loop sample on a tone track, or are you just putting a tone on a tone track? Risky. Okay, that's back on. Now let's see what we can do with this PCN business. Okay. Now I get the audios out. And now it's doing that. Okay, so I'm going to be quiet.
you will notice some amazing absences. There is no past.
Now you see it picking up in the recorder.
Can you hear anything past, incidentally? Can you hear anything future? They're just not there to the plain sense of one's ears. Well, I remember in the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus said a lot of things about this.
Let's try.
Consider
You could
the
do
lilies of the field, how they
shift
grow.
exit
They
for a
toil not,
retake.
neither do they spin. And yet, Suleiman in all his glory was not clothed.
Let's get here.
Ready. What do you have to be? Having gone through the discipline which is rewarded with realization.
Pick up just a couple
That
things
is
here.
trying to quench fire with fire.
Okay. So I'm going to stop this so
Wouldn't
we
it be
can...
great to have no...
Okay. Sorry for all the doubling. We'll see what's come up here because I was doing also a... my microphone's also running into the computer, so you get it. It's also picking up what I'm streaming. All right? Okay. Yeah, up here. I see what you mean. We'll get to that in 1 second here. So this was the PC, right? We can listen.
Which is rewarded with realization.
Got all that in the background, so...
That is trying to quench fire with fire.
So let's snag that, right? Let's just quench fire with fire.
That is trying to quench fire with fire.
Okay.
Quench fire with fire.
Get in there in the zoom, get it right up. Don't want to waste blank space, right?
Quench fire with fire.
Okay. We got that. And again, we can select our drum pad. I'll leave your cowbell alone. I'll get down there to a conga, okay? Picked it, hit enter. Now I got it.
Quench fire with fire.
So now I've picked anything I wanted out of off the PC. Didn't save anything. It just did a quick record, right? I took what I wanted off it and I deleted the rest of it. So you could do that, and now the sampler recorder, this itself, oops, it too stays within the 61 second limit because it's kind of like I guess a temporary hold. So it's staying within the 60 seconds. So 60-second portions at a time can be live recorded and then placed onto pads. Okay, so you can't record like a whole 3 minutes of stuff and just go through and chop what you want onto a pad. Now you could import, take a 3-minute wave, put it on the SD, and import that, and then go through it and chop all the things you want through it. It doesn't seem like an effective way to do that because there's DAWs and even Audacity can chop out stuff a whole lot quicker and you can see the whole thing a lot better. But if you wanted to do it on here, you could. Okay, so you're saying on a tone track. So we have a tone track here. Okay. So what you're saying is you want to, are you trying to hold a tone and put it on a step? Like you're picking a step and saying I want that tone on it, and then you're trying to extend it? A single sequence pad and extending it, yeah. And do you have a do you have a camera? I could put you on with me. We could split screen. Invite you. So you're putting a sample on a tone track. Okay, I can do that. Let's use number 5. I think I'm. Gotta get all the sound right, I guess, huh? Not that one. There we go. Okay. So make sure I had it right. Okay. So now have a sound. We can pick a sound. You're saying you're loading a sample, like a WAV file? And you just want to extend like a sample and a wave. Okay. Is it, what kind of long sample is it? Can you type, is it like a rhythmic thing? Is it a melodic thing? Is it just a long drony sample? What do you mean by, sorry, what do you, I just want to be clear so I know what to do and we could try. A long sample, so a long like, if I took something like, and put that on a tone track. Wait, what? Or a drum track? Hold on here. So you have a bass line, okay. You take like a, something like that. And you put it onto a tone track, right? So I load that on a tone track. Is this what you want to do, or would you rather have something like this on a drum track so you can just trigger and sample it and sequence it that way? Because if it's already a loop or a line, putting it on a tone track, I mean you could transpose it. Right? But it's pitching it and speeding it up. Right? It's just speeding and the regular C is going to be the regular playing, even though this is in a D. So I wouldn't put something like a bass line on a tone track. If you were looking to sequence this out, you would have to basically record and just hold the pad or hit this step, hit that note. Wait, let's get out of there so we can actually see what we're doing. Right? We hit this step, we see that note, we extend the length to whatever we need it to be. However long you want to go. The length of the loop, I would imagine. But it's not going to be tempo synced. It's going to play its own pace because it's not going to time stretch in a sense in the it's not going to time stretch in the sense on a tone track like it would in a looper track. You can actually, to get it to the speed, if it's not the original, like this is a 74 BPM loop and I'm playing at 100 BPM, to get it up to 100 BPM on that bass line, I'm going to have to pitch it up to find that speed and pitch, and it's going to change the pitch of the bass. So, the using the drum track. Yeah, so I would leave the tones for just like one-shot tone sounds for tone tracks. I think that'd be the best way to use. Like I'd use a WAV file and then one shot, go down. One shots. Like something like that. It's just a horn stab, right? Or I don't want to loop. An alto sax. So say I just want this one. That's what I would import to this, because then I gotta then you kind of, then it's something you could play and pitch with so much. But you said to 32, so it was a 2-measure. Was it a 2-measure clip? Could have been a 4-measure clip, and that's why I went silent, because it wasn't held for any longer and didn't come back right away, or because it'd have to come back and re-trigger again for it to keep playing past 32. So I would save them for the drum tracks.
Quench fire with fire.
Save any kind of bass line like that. So we could do that too, right here. So we can pick this now. Since my bass line's not going to be that bass line, right? We'll use the same one, for instance. We'll pick this one, shift that pad, because it's a drum pad. Go to that pad's highlight, enter, instrument select, choose a wave file, get into, where was I with, I think is an atmosphere. This one. Alright, that's so anyway, let's just say this is the one we wanted. Now it's at 74. If I just lay it on the drum track, it's going to stay at 74, and it's not going to be the tempo, unless the tempo of my project is 74, but this is 100 BPM tempo. Yeah, this would be definitely the way, Rusky, to do it. So this is another great example. I want to use this bass line. I want to put it right here, okay? I can't just load it on there and have it stretched to my 100 BPM. So I got to get over to my looper track, right? I'm right here. It says looper clip 8.1. I'm already still on that file, so let's just import it. See what that does. Back out. Did it do that there? That'd be interesting if I was all the way. So let's see. If we play. So it is there. Something else is chiming in. Oh. Okay. So it is playing it, so we can. So now we gotta. So now it's playing in time with everything. But I don't want it on the looper track. I want it on the drum track. Again, you can go into that shift sound. Is it shift sound? No, sorry. Shift clip. Where's there when you're on the clip? Maybe you can. I thought you could export the clip. Okay, it's not going to let me do it. I thought it was that you could. Maybe it's just been asked. Anyway, that's why I don't do it. So I would just have that play, like I showed you, shift record, choose my source as track 8, right? And then it plays, I just hit enter to stand by. Get ready to hit enter when it's done. Okay. Zoom in, get near the end so we can see it. I think right there's there. Right, so we got a nice loop there, and it's tempo synced. Right? Get that endpoint right at the beginning of the loop again. You can, if you feel the need, give it a normalized to 0 dB if you're really trying to max it out to unity gain. Sometimes, like a bass line, I don't want 0 because I don't want to run it over my drums. So I might give it a normalized to -2. See what this does. If it Didn't do much. But I got it. I go to my drum track. I can make sure that's highlighted and hit enter. So now I have that one there. I could exit. Go over there and delete that clip. I always get in that habit. If I'm not going to keep it on the looper and I'm just using it to time stretch something for a pad, I delete it right away. Okay? EQing samples on a tone track, or like just EQing a tone track. There's in a tone, yeah, there's a, you get an EQ as part of the kind of the sound design, so whatever's on there can be EQ'd. We'll get into that in a second. So I put that on my drum track, right?
Quench fire with fire.
This fades off. Again, we want to quickly get in there. We want to function, turn the sustain mode, envelope mode on, hit enter, go to edit, enter again, quickly to the end, your amp envelope, take your time 3 and 4 to 0. Okay, now I think you should get your decay all the way up. So you go there, now it plays all the way through. Now that we got that, we can exit out. Then we can hit. Okay, don't have to. Let's do this. I'll wait for it to come around to the end. This is an 8 measures, so I put it on the last so I know when it's gonna circle around. There's a count in, but I just so that's might have been what happened for you, because it was only in a drum track. I don't know if this is how it went, but it was a 32, not even a 32, it was a 64 step. So I could do this 64 step sample, and I didn't re-trigger after it went. So after it did 4 measures or the 64 step loop, it stopped playing. It didn't loop back. So you could either hit again to re-trigger it again, or you can simply, yeah, you'd have to step sequence the next one. So if that was the case, I went all the way through there. It even went further. So I could back it up. Here's what I do. Hit that step. Wait. Where's my length? Oh no, I didn't tie it. No, that's what I get. My end is forever. I'm not going to go into that because I reset the step. So with drum tracks, that'll happen. You turn on and off and you reset that whole sustain, so you have to hold it again. So it might take 2 times through, especially if you have no release on a thing, trying to hit it again on time so it sounds like a proper loop. Or even with that little break in it, it sounds like a recorded loop that could be very useful in lo-fi kind of stuff, because a lot of their loops, they sound like they're jacked from a record, you know, or they're from something. So they always don't have like that perfect sounding loop or rhythm, you know what I mean? It is different on a make the samples louder on a, so on a tone track, if this tone track, this one will probably be best to hear. So this one, if you need to make it louder, there's a couple ways. You could either shift sound and right on the control, no, EQ's right there, so you can turn it on, and then you can immediately boost or cut any frequencies, and you can define the cutoff levels. Okay, now this is for the overall sound. You can also go to mix and turn your level up. This is at 115. It can get to 127. So if a sound on a tone track's not very loud, you could turn the overall track tone, or the overall tone up. You can also turn all the oscillators, each one up. They each have their own level as well. Volume right here. So each oscillator can be tuned to a different volume, like number 3 is on 127. The other two are on 100. We got a sample on here that's a, what is it, a mg square on oscillator 1. Same thing on number 2, but probably just up a fifth. And then 3 is a super saw that's just on there with it. So you have a doubled up tone, the same tone on oscillator 1 and 2. One's just coarse tuned down 5. That one's down 12. So, and 3 is at the natural root note, but it's a saw wave, or super saw. You could detune it to make it sound. If you don't have much, you'll hear it more if you have stereo or headphones on, to get that little detune left and right. Anyway, more chorusy sounding. So those are a couple ways you can bring up your tone track samples. This even, because when you load a sample to a tone track, which one did I do it to? 5? Right? Oscillator 1 has this sample. It says sample. It's a PCM type oscillator. So even a waveform or a sample you load into a tone track comes onto an oscillator. You can go over here and load up another oscillator. Nothing's saying, now we got white noise to go with our horn. Square wave with it. Or you can get into PCM and then choose a sample that you might have and get all the way into, depending on where your samples are, you have to have them loaded into the project if you go past the first oscillator. So there's a recorded sample. Oh, this is that bass line I brought in, and the saxophone stab, and then a recorded sample. So this is. Now I got two sounds. I got a loop playing over a stab, and it cuts off at the right time, right? That sounds kind of dope, actually, if you ask me. What do you guys think? That sounds. You need to play it all the time, right? Whatever. Something along those lines, right? So you can see I even put a loop on top of a step on two of these oscillators. Now you can get really deep and go into partial mode. There's this easy mode and then partial mode. What that'll do is it breaks down each partial, and you can have a filter separate for each partial. You simply just click the partial you want, and that's what the EQ is for. So I could EQ this horn. Let's give it a high pass filter. Whatever. All right, now we got a high pass filter on that one. And then on our bass line, maybe we want that one to come up a little more. So let's go over to the EQ, right? For partial 2. Let's turn it on, get our lows up a little. So you can hear those go down a bit more. We got that. We got volume here. Let's crank it up to. That's a little louder with it. That sounds better. Right. So just goofing around, you can see how I have 2 more oscillators I can fill up with whatever I really want, and you have a 4-voice synth tone. And going into this partial mode allows you to apply these effects, the LFOs. Now this is per partial now. As you change each partial by pushing each C knob like a button, you'll see on top partial 2. Well, I don't know if you can see. Oh, you can't. Okay. Effects are a great way to boost stuff. I always, before I boost the level too much, I do add my effects because I want those to come in at a normal level, and then I can kind of boost everything overall. So EQing, I find I want to do my EQing a little bit later in my channel. I'll hit my, I mean, this is kind of how it goes. You're going to EQ and then effect and then into the mix. So based off of that and your amp envelope and your filters, sometimes if your filter cutoff's pretty low and you're trying to hit some of these higher note tones, you're not going to get all that higher register because you've been cutting it off. I like, well, I don't know, house. I like doing house. It's what I gear towards, but lately I just tried to do this. One guy I'm working with, teaching him on his stuff, is he makes kind of that lo-fi, you know, mid-tempo, whatever. A lot of drones, a lot of spacey stuff. He just picked up like a Hydra synth, and he's got a wave state, and he's got a Moog sub 37 and 707 T8S. He's got a ton of good shit, but he's trying to get all his stuff together in production. So I tried to learn how to make kind of a little more chill, down-tempo, lo-fi kind of track, and I'm liking it. It's fun, especially since most of my creative time lately has been coming at midnight, 1 a.m. So I'm in the low zone, so that lo-fi tends to sit with me a little better. But yeah, it could be a fun little, it could be a fun little house track thing. This unfortunately is in my project, the lo-fi project, but that's okay. Not saving anything. So you can see how just playing around a little bit, but with some directed play, you're going to really find you get the best results over trying to just randomly turn things and see what happens, if you know what I mean. A little more energy. Okay. Whew. All right. Where are we? I apologize if you guys are hearing that kind of click. I know it's one of the cameras plugged into USB. Anyway. Nice. I'd love to hear it, man. I want to hear some people making some good stuff. I mean, like, I don't know what I've been posting up about that little lo-fi track I made. But what I started doing more recently with this, let me put that down, make sure everything's working okay. This is the... Okay, that's the SEO2. Okay. I just want to make sure everything's controlling everything properly. It's kind of all that stuff back there. I don't want to go too far up in a way, but... So this is my SEO2. Oh no, this should be the... That's why it's all funky. If I don't set this right, it's going to sound really bad. So that's number 11. That's number 9. There we go. That's the JU06. Let's get that down. A little loud. All right. So JU, SEO2, and JD08. This one sounds really good. Some of the sounds on the JD08's up. I don't know. You guys want to hear some of this stuff on it? Hey, Mark. How you doing, buddy? Okay, the lo-fi compressor and the 106 chorus. You can get them, right? I got you. Yeah, so do you put that lo-fi on the multi? And just lo-fi everything, or are you doing it strictly on, like, the drums? You doing the chorus on a track and then the lo-fi? How do you like to do that? Is it Nufi? Nufi? Nuf? Nuf? I don't know. Nufi. I'm going to go with Nufi. Sounds good. Sounds exotic. All right. Anyway. Yeah, here's some other. That's the JDO here. That's right. I was gonna. There. This one up here, right? Some have some really slow rises on them. That's just sounds so good. I don't know about you, but that's sounds pretty damn good for a module. The really cool thing about this is up here on the envelopes, you have separate level and time. And I know that was probably, if you had a JD800, sure, that made sense, but I never had one of those. So I love this concept of it. It's really fun. You got 4 parts on it. Right? Sorry, okay, guys. So you get the 4 parts, each one. So you can select and mute each one. Kind of have a palette to give some volume to each one. You get different sequencers for each one and a different arpeggio for each one. The pitch, filter, and amp envelope all have a time slider and a level. So not only do you have like a level of your attack, but also like the time. You could stretch it out really long and not have it go up very far. So it just gives you really like great sounds. Definitely a fun one. Anyway, it's been kind of my new little favorite, running through all the different sounds going on it. So that's the computer I'm putting in it. Anyway, let's get this way up so you can see everything. Whoa. So you can kind of see everything. Anyway. Yeah. So I got Terry does running drums. And then the latest thing I did was I did scenes and then scene chaining for all the stuff on the 707 part. So I don't have to focus on the changes there. It could do its changes while I'm playing with the drums, or I'm playing with the MX1, bringing sounds in and out, or doing effects, or whatever's going on with that. So with hitting just the start on the TR-8S, it should start off, see how much noise gets made. Yeah, this 303 wants to go. This is. So all this runs through itself. You can see I have, I think, 8. Well, kind of see it. There, that's better. Okay. I do a lot of just muting, unmuting on the TR-8S. I like the hands-on feel for it. I haven't tried to automate a whole lot on it. Not necessarily Just started out pretty basic with this one so far and just worked into other things. And as it goes, it starts bringing in more and more of these sounds here. This right now is the JU06 coming in, or not the JU06, the JD08. Had the bass line just come in from 707. And then I'm gonna and the nice thing about the MX1, if you don't have one, is the beat effects on here and even the master effects have some really great sounds. The beat effects has like a stepped filter or a side chain on it, or a slicer. I like to put the slice on it, so you can hear that right there. It's just like gated slicer for the. Now if I take it off, you hear that nice high pitched J washy sound, and then I hit the step sequence on it. One of my favorite things on it. So we're going to go back to this and move it into the next one. Add a little filter to that one. Anyway, more of that kind of stuff. I've also added in some of the, I guess I could turn it like this. You guys want to see the Eurorex stuff. I've added some things over here, some extra percussion stuff that's really nice and fun to have. Let's turn this down a little here. Then I can add that same step effect. A separate sequenced step effect on the, I'll show you that first. Come on. Right. So that makes one. You have filter, sidechain, and slicer, and they're all based off of this step sequencer. Like this one now is, every step that's highlighted allows the sound like a gate to come through. So I turn it off and you got just your regular sound, right? With the delay coming from the Master Effect. Now that's just that. So it's playing this sound, but gated. Now maybe you say I wanted it like side chained. You could do that by just setting the certain ones, or you can hit the side chain. And that's with the side chain, it's ducking on each of these steps. Now there's different types of each one, and here it's like it's shutting the filter on all those steps and opening it back up on the non-active steps. So those are some cool effects, and each one can have a different setup, which is really fun. So each track can have separate beat effect, and they all share these master effects. And you get stuff like the scatters in there. I'm just a big delay fan. So, and then I also start adding just a few things from the modular stuff. There's some extra percussive stuff that was fun to play with right here. This little, let's bring that up. Turn those down. So I got this a little adjustable decay. And these are all just sequenced through a little modular brain right here that's MIDI tempo synced to the rest of everything through the MX1. I actually think through the MC101. And then I have a little sampler on here with it too that I use for the vocal samples. Those ones. And the fun thing about this is, I'll show you here. Is on this, let me make sure you're seeing it here. It's called the sample drum. Oop. And the nice thing about modular is you could send in all these control voltage, right? These signals. So I got a kind of attenuated random going through, and you'll see about every bar, it changes the sample. Yet it only triggers every, I think, 16 bars. So it's always random kind of what's going to end up playing when it does decide to play. So it's kind of fun part of the randomness. Sometimes it works out really well, sometimes it doesn't. And then there's this really nice one called the inspiration generator. This one runs basically, you can choose notes, right? You got your white keys, black keys up here. They're all based off of faders. Like say I want a A major, I'd go A, E, and C sharp, I think. So I have those. I can decide if I want them in 16th note changes, 8th note. With this one, let's go like 1, kind of whole note and some half note stuff. And you could choose which octave range to have them kind of play in. Now this is just the drony stuff right here. That's coming in there. We'll turn that off. So we can turn these down. So you can hear that kind of coming in. That's this right here, choosing all these sounds. And then if I wanted to kind of have these real plucky ringy stuff, the rings, everyone rings into clouds, right? The traditional thing to do. So I could have it play these notes as well, right? That's this starting to play it. Let's turn that down a little. So it's playing this one, these notes at 16th note in the same octave. So let's get it to change octaves. But this one's not as low as the E, so it's not really holding as a A major. So I can drop the octave of the A to put that into the kind of that traditional. Let's add some 8th notes in so it doesn't always bounce around, maybe a quarter note. So now it's completely random. The amount of randomness is how low the fader is. So if I wanted it not to be played as much, I could turn this one down a little, and it will focus on these more and occasionally play this one while it's switching between octaves and beat divisions of notes. Now I got a thing that he does, it's called linearity, and what it does is it increases the chance that it's going to be a little more musical. So you can hear it already kind of tuning into something a little more musical to happen. Right? And then I could pause it at any time. I could pause the sequence and then bring it back. I want to find a little mixer for all the Euro rack stuff. 8-channel mixer. And then all the voices. Some of the other stuff you hear. Some really fun, like. Anyway. That's what all that is. So that was the latest thing I was building. and trying to play with. And I was trying to learn that because I'm going over to see him soon, and I find it if we learn how to use it in his chosen style of music, then he should essentially have a much easier time learning. Hopefully, right? All right. Okay. Let me catch up with this stuff. Noof. All right, Noof. So you use lo-fi on the beats and samples. So lo-fi on your drum tracks, and the 106 chorus is your overall. So you're giving everything kind of that 106 chorus. Okay. And you're using the lo-fi compressor, right, on the beats. So that means I got to make drums on my 707. All right, that's good. Good advice, thank you. About 12 to 15% wet on the entire mix. Okay. Excellent. Brings out a lot of the mono samples. Thanks, Noof. I'll definitely get into applying that. I'd have to... Fortunately, there's no lo-fi compressor. I'm trying to think what makes a lot of those... what makes the lo-fi compressor what it is. I'm not familiar enough to know if I could create that with a different compressor and it's just settings, or if there's specific coloration that it's doing. I'm sure that's what it is. Yeah, Rusky, the boutiques are a great way for someone who wants synths without room. I'm going vertical up a wall, and being able to control them all with just the one keyboard and running through, of course, the 707. But the nice thing about the keyboard itself too is that the A300, I just turn this knob and I'm changing MIDI channels. So if I was running even this through chained on the boutiques, then I just have to change what MIDI channel it is, and I could play whatever sound that is. I like running it through the 707 because that way it's on a track on the 707, and I could sequence that synth with the 707 and have all those nice fun things that the 707 comes with. All right, so we can see if I have that set up right too on the... I don't think that one's set up right. On the 707 you can, like I was telling you, we could do that MIDI. We could turn our control change on, maybe that's what it is. Not yet. Let's get it down the CC74. There we go. Now when I turn this filter, it's adjusting the filter on the Roland SCO2. Okay, got that, 74. Mod 71 should be my resonance. Right, and then what did I say, 112? There you go. Fun with a Moog. So 74, 71, 112 gave me filter cutoff, filter resonance, and an octave shift for the SCO2. All from the 707. Okay. Does the TR-8S have a sampler too? No. You can import samples into it, yes. Mika, thanks for hanging out. Hope you're still hanging. Anyway, thank you, man, for cruising. And I will replay this broadcast for everyone too if they want to. So yeah, Rusky, definitely. Boutiques are fun. If you want to know more, any specific one, let me know. I love them all. I don't have some of the originals. I'm still on the hunt. My wallet disagrees, and my accountant says I should stop. But it is what it is. Right? All right. We're just a bunch of enthusiasts trying to have fun. Don't ruin our fun. Load samples off the SD card, yeah. 6 minutes of mono. I definitely keep the one-shots. If you're going to do loops, get a sampler. If you're sticking with Roland, the 404 is nice. If you're looking at someone else, there's a lot of other samplers out there. The 1010 Music, was it the Black Box and Blue Box? No, Blue Box is a mixer. There's some good stuff out there. If you're looking for longer samples, I recommend getting something dedicated for samples because it takes the load off of everything else. You know what I mean? Okay. And yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, it's all connected and has their purposes, and I really do like getting the modular to receive at least a tempo sync and let it go from there and see what it comes up with too. Sometimes it has good ideas. Sometimes it just sounds like a bunch of bleeps and bloops. That's a lot of the time. And I don't try to use it too much within songs unless I could really nail something or it's the focus of what I'm trying to do. I did try to fashion it to be something I could play on its own for an hour and keep it interesting with quite a bit of prep. Not a little bit of prep, but if I prep it and get it ready, I could do a good set. I'd like to do a 20-minute kind of performance. I want to be on the Freak Boutique. That's what I'd like to do. WMD Devices Freak Boutique. I want to play on that. Anyway, what else are we doing? Michael, hey, how you doing, man? I'm always torn about the MX-1. Great mixer effects. It's noisy. The connectivity is limited. Yeah, I can see that. You have enough Roland. If you have enough Roland gear that you can plug into it, then by golly. But the MX-1 can't work for all my stuff. Exactly. Not enough generic inputs. I 100% agree. I do know that most of your synthesizers and drum machines and everything can go mono, so you have 4 mono tracks, and then the 5.6 could be a stereo. I don't use the send return or anything like that. I think what's the digital, no. I use right now 3 of the USBs. Be sweet if they're all powered, but they're not. So, an MX2 would be awesome, but I don't know. I talk to those guys consistently, and there's no, I don't know if there's any interest from the top dogs. Everyone else would love one, but the Roland Japan makes all the calls, and if they're not seeing there's a market for it. But I mean, with all these other their portable stuff and all their boutiques, and even being able to plug more other gear in would be great. I don't know if they do a class compliant USB ports so everything could go into it, because Korg wants you to buy Korg, Roland wants you to buy Roland, Akai wants you to buy Akai, so yeah, if you're going samples and want a lot of clip launching and clip based stuff, then definitely the Force is the way to go, and you can get some creative sequencing on there and whatnot. I got an MPCX. I haven't turned it on in 3 months. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of how it does things. I do like it, but it's not fun. The Force I know is way different. I know I've got to play on that, and I agree it's probably out of the MPC line, or if it's even considered that, but out of that line, I think that's the most playable and most fun. But my biggest issue is there's no sliders. There's no volume sliders on a lot of stuff, and it's pad focused, and I can't stand the touch screen. I'm not a big about that. But woo! All right, hold tight, guys. That was fun. Okay. Let me do this. I just put that back up there too. Okay. That was bonkers. Let's get this put back. I don't know how that came off. You guys almost saw a major disaster and me start crying. That was my favorite camera. Holy moly. Okay. No more of that business. You're going to be like this for right now, okay? I'm not fooling around with that. Okay. Sorry. Whatever we can do here. I don't know what we should focus on. If you guys have any ideas that you'd like to see or something you'd like me to talk about. The Jupiter X and XM with their new 3.0 has some really great models and sounds in it. And that Juno X looks pretty sweet, but they must think we're rich. All right, so where are we back to? Now that everything's not falling out on me. Yeah. You could go mono and use. Synths don't really. I can't say that, but generally, synths instruments can go mono. It's only if you're really sending a separate signal to each side, and you need that to be panned that way. But if you can, yeah. Rusky, thank you very much, man. Have a good night. You hung in there for quite a while, and you know what time it is. We're doing good. 2.5 hours in. Yeah, okay. Force is much more of a DAW instead of an MPC is used for it. Yeah, could definitely see that. So, all right, guys, let me just make sure everything's going good here. Everyone seems good about it. Just sort of checking in on everyone. Okay. Got all that in. Let's get rid of some of these windows here. Still doing good on this. Nice. I want to thank you guys again for tuning in with me. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you guys are. I've been having a good time. So, where are we? We're on the SEO2. So what else can we get into? Let's kind of talk about scenes and scene chaining. Especially the 707. You guys seem pretty okay with talking about the 707 here. I know mainly because I'm in the 707 group and on on YouTube, but you know, this is mostly advertised on the Facebook group too, so I can imagine most people hear about the 707. Okay, let's try not to knock everything over. That was crazy. Okay. Let's get this back in action. 707. It's the kind of trouble we can get back into. I should know how to set my camera up by now. That's good. You're seeing most of it anyway. That's what you need to see. Everybody loves a crooked camera. Especially this guy with some OCD here. Okay. A couple things about scenes. First, you got to understand what a scene is. A scene is a collection of clips across your 8 tracks that you want to play together. You can also think of it as a part of a song that you want, okay? Okay, great question, Mark. Let's touch on that for a minute before we get into the scenes, because this is a nice one. If I was going to a friend's house to play a live gig, here, check this out, look what I can do. Bang, bang. Okay, to play a live gig, you obviously don't want to unplug all your instruments, no doubt. So, which ones would I take? Or is this now a valid case for buying the new portable? Well, I don't know. I don't need a valid case for buying those things. They look fun and cute. Anyway, and I really think there's more to come. Someone pointed out those are 3 of the 9 colors that are in the little pyramid thing they made. So I'm wondering if they're going to make like 9 of them total and what they're going to make. Could they make a little mini mixer MX1 for all the portables? Anyway, it's fun for intro. I would take the TR-8S. I'd take the 707. And that's it. If I was going to do a live gig, I'd take those 2. If I was maybe a bit more seasoned with it, I'd probably take the 404 also, just as my sampler, so I could fire off fun samples, vocals, and things like that. Michael's got the best idea. I like that idea right there. What do you guys think? All right. Michael, just send me your credit card information, and we'll be good. Yeah, double of everything would be awesome. I'm just wanting to buy double of at least the power cords so I don't have to rip the cords out from everything and have to put it all back. And I'd like to be able to unplug the device right out of all its cords, pull it away, and then put it in a bag and go gig. But here's what I would do. I'd use the 8S and the 707. I would, if I had this connector like I do now, doing sequences of my boutiques, I would plug it in to the 707, my MX1 or whatever, and I would record each of those into some looper tracks, because I don't think I'd use that much. And then I'd also make more use of maybe my internal tone tracks. So, yeah, and the chords. I wouldn't bring the TR-06 because this would be plenty of drums for just going to like a friend's house. I really like the TR-06 with my modular stuff, or with like some semi-modular synths or something like that. You know what I mean? Like something you can make use of the triggers. And I mean, don't get me wrong, that thing's a bad boy. It sounds super good, and I love those 06 sounds. I love the drive you can put on it, and like I do really dig it. But I got those sounds in the TR-8S also. And if I'm going to try and stay minimal, I probably would bring these. But you never know. I mean, you bring up a valid point, Mark. I mean, it's hard to stay away from the TR-06 when you're wanting like some fun drums. And I like the portability of it, honestly. I like that I could keep it in its little dock and bring a little battery pack, plug it in USB and headphones, and make a bunch of fun little rhythms. I do like the probabilities on the steps. You know, the TR-06 has probability per step, or percentage. So, yeah. Michael, that's great. You're using the ripcord or whatever it is, and using those USB battery packs. What size, or how long have you had it? What I want to know is how long do they last if you have that 707 plugged into it? Let's find some other projects. Load another one. Oh, is it? Oh, okay, I could show you with. This is a good one for scenes. Enter. Don't write. Please don't save anything on there. You know that stuff. Oh, what camera is that? That drives me nuts. Is it this one? Nope. I always want to know what camera's causing the USB buzz. Anyway. Yeah, ripcord's cool. Okay. So you could get both of them plugged into like a nice big pack and get about 2 or 3 hours out of it. I always keep around all these little, what are these 10,000? I think they're 10,000s, these things. A little battery pack. Yeah. And I keep a few of these around just for the TR6S and MC101. And for portable fun, I got one of these. See if you can see. Oh, I got it's this little passive mixer. They're stereo 1/8" jacks or 3.5 millimeter. It doesn't plug in. If you got a camera, you could take a shot of the USB. I don't make any money off this stuff. A friend of mine and I were thinking of making something quite similar to this. But you could plug in 4 different stereo inputs, so you can do like dual 1/4 inch to 3.5 TRS on your 8S and your 707, and run them into this, and then put your headphones in this one right here, and they could run both separately if you want to, if you weren't running one into the other. Oh, 100, yeah. Yeah, that's huge. They're going to frisk you every time you go traveling. What do you need a battery that big for? Oh, okay. The ripcord's not being able to pull enough amps through them. What are they? They're just like a USB to whatever it is on the, oh, like a 9-volt adapter, or like an AC adapter plug. I see. That's what it is, like a USB on one side and that on the other, with a little converter in between. I hear about them, but I never see them. Everyone says they got them, and then they don't show them. Like, I got it. Look, I'm in the forest with my 707. Well, let me see the ripcord. Out in nature making music. Like, doing good here. All right. Need a big battery, make sure both are capable of a minimum. Okay. Oh, you need 1.5 per output. Okay. It's good stuff to know. So, yep, Mark, that's what I think I would go for. But honestly, I couldn't see you doing a live gig with the compacts. I mean, you could have a bit of a jam, and maybe lose yourself for an hour or two. but to hold a crowd, you'd have to be really good. Or, I don't know. Anyone else has to be really tossed and just into that acid. Get it squelching for you, and then just run it all through that E4 to really tweak it. So, don't get me wrong, I still want all of them, especially that J6 with that chord sequencer. And all those different little chord modes, or the chord motifs, if you will. Those are super sick. Okay. Let me talk a little bit about scenes, clips, and scene chaining, and clip chaining, and all that kind of stuff. Clips, as you know, as you've been playing with it, are little packets of information that hold the audio and MIDI data that allow you to play your drums and your tones and your loops that create your project, right? All your clips are individual. They don't need to be the same length. You can have a 1 measure clip, you can have an 8 measure clip in the same track even. So as this shows, track 1 D is my drum track. In the first clip, I can have it as a 4 measure. Yep. My second can be, 4, 8, 2, whatever, 1. It doesn't matter. All I'm saying is they're all independent of each other as far as length and data goes. Okay. You can only play 1 clip at a time in each track. Now, track are in your columns here, right? Each track has 16 clips, and they each can only play 1 clip at a time. But you can play 8 tracks at once. Now, You do not have to play all the clips on the same row. You don't have to be like that and play them all in the same row and then move down to 2. Okay? You'll notice if you go to 2, if these don't have 2, they stay on 1. When you hit down here, it's just turning them off. But you don't have to, but you're welcome to line all your clips up. That's okay if that helps with your organization. You like to know everything on clip row 1 plays together, everything on 2 plays together. I do that most part. Sometimes I'll bounce back and forth between 1 and 2, and that's where scenes come in, right? Because I wouldn't need a scene if I wanted to just fire off all of clip row 1, and then if I wanted to do 2, I don't have to set up a scene. I could just use my C3, go to, I'd have to, let's push all the way over so we highlight the whole row here, right, on the screen. Sorry. Now when we're going down, I could choose row 2 and just push C3 like a button and it fires off all row 2. If I go to row 3 fires off 4, 5, all the way back up to 1, and I just click it and it fires the whole row. So essentially, I know it's going to sound like rubbish, but let's see what happens. Oh, easy, TB3. Getting excited. I don't know why. What are you coming in on? Okay. No more sound, so. So this is if I'm playing all 1, right? Let's do that. So I get it ready when it comes around. Then I could go to 2 and say, okay, when the clock comes around to 12, play row 2. Right? So let's do this. I think that's where I had that. So you can do that if you're just trying to fire off an entire row at one time. You can just highlight the rows and then go up and down using C3 to select the row, and when before you're ready for it to play, just select it, and when that clock comes around at the top back to 12 o'clock, it will trigger that row. That's a great way to do it and keep everything very consistent. Okay. Okay. So that's fine. But say you want a combination, or maybe you just, for a part of a song, only want that one to play. Nothing else, just this one clip. Maybe that's your intro. That's what it is for me on this one. If that's the case, I want to save that as a scene. I know these two are on for reasons unknown. Okay. That's all it is. So my scene 1 has track 2 has a clip active, and 7 and 8 both have clips active. My scene 2 now has track 1, 2, and 4 active, and track 8 has a clip active. Which clip it is depends on where you are over here. You come over here and you select your clips. As you can see, track 1, clip 1. We're on row 1 is right here. If I press 2, row 2 is right here. This lit up step shows what row of clips is currently on the top row of pads. Okay, so it's 1, 2. If I hit like 7, I have 7, 8. Okay? Anyway. So, my scene 2 has those 4 active. Here's 1, 2. On number 3, it's somewhere down there. Oh, it's 4 here. On 4, it's all the way down at number 11. Okay, clip 11 for track 4. Everything else back up here, 1 and 2. So it doesn't matter where you're at in the track. You can have a clip play with other clips and other tracks. They don't have to be next to each other. Okay, and then as it goes through my different ones, you can see each track either comes in or comes out by being lit up on top. Okay. To create a scene, I just select, make sure I'm there, okay. To create a scene, I just simply select the ones that I want to play, and then I come over to mute mode, and then I make sure this is my first clip, because when you chain clips, they only go in order. You can't jump around. So either make your scenes in the order you want them to play, or don't, and I can show you a way that you can reorganize them within a different bank. I have these just made in the order I want the song to play through. So 1 is that. I have that ready. I just hold function and I hit 1. And it says store scene 1. Now this is call type 2, remember. In my system settings, there's 2 call types for scene callback. Default, if you haven't touched it, is type 1, where these are your scenes, and these are banks for the 8 scenes. 1, 2, 3, 4, hold shift, 5, 6, 7, 8. Type 2, these are the banks, 8 banks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And then these are the scenes within each bank. So either way, you still get 128 scenes. Okay? I'm not using that many for this song. You can use as much as you want. I consider a scene a part of a song. So intro, this one, now the beat comes in. I got a little something else coming in here too. 3, we get the bass line coming in. 4 cuts out the drums, keeps the bass line, introduces a couple new sounds. And 5 kicks back in for anything after. And this is just as far as this part's gone, and also do manipulation. Now this is strictly in here, no other gears being used, no other drum machine. This is a song that I worked on straight in the 707. So if you go to scene 1, and I hit play, you see it getting ready to come up after the length that I set for it. Scene 3 is coming up because I said so many rotations of the clock for scene 2 before switching. Right. So even this one stayed lit, it switched clips. It moved to a different clip number. This one's going to go to 4. So if you watch, you'll see it's on 3. 4 is ready to go. After that, it comes back to the 3, just because I have 2 different little things happening with the drum, so it just goes back and forth between those 2 in that scene, because in that scene, within the time it takes before it switches, these clips are going back and forth. Right, so it's and then it kicks back in. So, and then it gets to 5, and when it gets to 5, it just repeats itself over and over and over, because I told it not to go anywhere else. So it just stays at 5 and keeps going. Okay, so that's kind of how it works with the scenes. To chain them, once you've created your scenes and you're ready to put them together and go through them automatically, make sure you're over in that mute pad mode, shift in first scene. That brings up 2 options, chain and length. Turn the chain on to chain out your scenes. The length is one clock rotation. Now this can mean something different for everybody, because shift tempo, step length, is the length it takes for the clock to make a full complete circle. The full complete circle is when clips will change, time-based, when they'll start or stop. It's also when the looper track starts and stops. If you're recording anything else, it waits for the clock to start. When it does, it starts recording for the designated amount of measures. Once it's hit that designated amount, it stops recording and starts the playback of the clip. So it's always in a perfect time with everything else. And also it's important for any kind of time-based changes. So I set mine for 64 steps, 4 measures. that gives me a 4 measure sections before anything changes. So as it's going through its 4 measure sections, if I'm 1 measure in, I can decide I want those 2 to come on, and then I can move back to doing something else. I know at the end of those 4 measures, when that clock comes around, those will activate. I don't have to be there babysitting it. Okay? By default, it's only set to 16, so you have to make changes within the last measure before you want changes. That can be nerve-wracking or time-consuming if you're trying to do multiple things at once. This gives me a 4 measure buffer. It can go up to 8 measures. I recommend usually setting it to the length of your longest clip. That way, your longest clip never gets cut short when doing scene chains. Okay? I like 4 because it's comfortable for me. I do have 8 measure clips, but I know that, and I know how to set up to make sure I'm not messing with things. So set your step length, because it's important in this. Because this says 2 lengths. When I have a 4 measure length, this is saying scene 1 is going to play for 2 of those 4 measure lengths, or 8 measures. It'll play for that, and then it'll automatically move on to 2. I press 2, same thing. I have this set for 8, so now that's 16 bars within 2 scenes. After 16 bars, it moves to 3. Now that's set up to 4. Now I have a 16 bar length section. So, 8, 8, 16, because these were all 2 lengths. Each length is 4 bars or 4 measures. So when I do 4 bars, 16 bars. Drops down to 2, and then length off, which means it just continues. Okay? With the length of 1, I don't think it'll... It just wants to move to a blank one where everything turns off. It's at the end of the rotation. So it just automatically goes there to the end. So if you give it a length but no scene after it, it will simply blank out and just be quiet. Good if you want it to be quiet for a period of time if you have multiple instruments connected and you want it to keep playing. I could say 6. We'll go 5, chain on length 2, let's say. 6, nothing's active. You don't see any lit up green pads, so none of my tracks have active clips. And I'm going to set that for, let's say 4, because I want 16 bars of this not making noise, but everything else is going on. Maybe my TRS is running drums. Maybe I got some other stuff playing. Maybe I just want that silence because I'm going to get into a wicked guitar solo. Whatever. Some reason. And I could say, do that for 4, then go to 7, and now I make a whole new, you know what I mean? No new scene. And then that's on 7, so I'm going to function 7. Now I've saved these tracks being active. I don't even know what clips, without going in and picking clips, but it doesn't matter at this purpose. 7 now has, and then I can leave that one off, let's say. So now you'll see I have bright blue, dim, bright. When I get to 5, it'll play through, right? Just going to do it again. On the length before the ending of the chain or the link, you'll see everything flash and get ready to go to the next one. Now for 16 bars, this one's going to go, let's just do 2 for brevity. 1 more. Or is it not going to? Let's see what it does. Anyway, it goes for its length. There you go. And then it's quiet, so maybe you're doing stuff and get ready to come back in. After it's quietness, your solo's ending, you're ready to go, then everything kicks back in automatically for you. However you choose to have it come back in. It doesn't have to come in full force. Know what I mean? Know what I mean? Scenes, scene chaining. Sorry. Yeah, scene and scene chaining. Scenes are separate from clips. Scenes are the collection of clips, and if you chain them, it looks at the master tempo and it does its thing. Now within each clip, like I have here, on my drum track 3 and 4, right? If I go to 3 and then go to shift clip, if I scroll down, you'll see next clip is 4 after 64 steps. So after 4 measures, clip 3 automatically jumps to clip 4. If I press clip 4, it says after 64 measures, or sorry, steps, 4 measures, which is the step length, jumps back to 3. So 3 and 4 play back and forth when it reaches 3. I can have it go 1, 2, 9, 5, 7, 6, 3. Once it hits 3, it's 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. Okay, so it goes back and forth. Now if 3 happens to be in a scene, it's still going to play that scene, but it's going to jump back and forth because this is told to jump back and forth no matter what. So it's going to do that, and then when the scene changes and it no longer maybe calls for 3, that stops or goes to another scene or another clip. So it's way more clear, Mark. Yeah, go in that call type 2 right here. Let's get out of there so we make sure you're there, because this makes sense. This looks like a chain. Scene chaining, you look like you're linking together. Doing this business, trying to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if you want a scene 5 to link, you gotta shift and okay, link that one too. Nah. Banks, easy. Scenes. Get into it by shift, knob assign, settings, and not MIDI. It's under the control tab. It's just about at the last thing, I think. Call scene. Choose type 2. Okay. Boy, if we really got 16 people tuning in, thank you so much for joining. It's showing me that we've got 16 watching. I love it. Yeah, my pleasure. Who is this here? Whoever's traveling. Travel safe. Murdoch. No problem, man, Murdoch. Good to have you watching it. It will be up for video. I'll make sure to post a link. It will be on YouTube, I'm sure, as a live video. I'll probably link that because that's where I want you guys all to watch, because you watching on YouTube makes me happy. Because they actually give me something for mucking about with them. Facebook, whatever. We don't need to discuss Facebook. Call type 2. Call scene type 2. If you have it set for that, these will be your scenes. Easy to call them up this way because you could see it laid right out and you say, I want this one. You could do it manually. If you don't have them, chained, you just turn the chain off, you press a scene, it's going to continuously play that scene until you tell it to play the next one, and it won't play it till the clock comes around. Okay? And if your clock takes that 4 measures to come around, you got a little bit of time, change your scene, go back in, get ready to play something, start tweaking a knob, do a filter sweep before it happens, whatever. Have fun. So, I leave the chain on because I want my scenes to play how they are, because I'm generally playing with other stuff too. And if I don't have to focus on changing clips in this one, and I could come over and I could tweak some knobs and have fun with that, and I could bring a fader in or out, and then I could come over here and I can play on the drum machine, or I can whatever, tweak a knob on the mixer. You know what I mean? I can have fun doing that kind of thing. This thing's so weird that it does this kind of stuff. Anyway. I hope that's making sense for you guys. What do you guys think? The warm woodwinds. That's that Jupiter. Sounds super yummy. Especially that 3.0 update. I don't know what kind of frequency response you guys get, but a bank. Yes, a bank is a collection of 16 scenes in this scene call type 2. If you're on call type 1, a bank would be only 8 scenes because you'd have 16 banks. But in this way, you have 8 banks. You pick your banks 1, 2, 3, 4, hit shift, and you can get 5, 6, 7, 8. But each one of these banks holds up to 16 scenes. And if you get to 16 and you need a chain to number 2, just on 16 when you're, chained, whatever it is, length, after that length, it will just go to bank 2 and start on 2, 1. Okay, so it'll jump from 16 to 2, 1, right? I think it's set for 1. What did it jump to? Oh, okay. Set to 1. See, so it's going to jump over to 2, I think. Yep. So it jumped over to bank 2, scene 1. So when you end at 16, you're not done. Now, what I was saying was, say you came in here and you're using bank 1, and you were just making scenes, and you didn't really have any order to them. You just liked how some clips are playing together. You're like, yeah, I like that part. Let's save that. I'm going to funk 1 that. Funk in the scene number. We'll always save it. Now, you can copy them too, but hold on. Say you just make a whole bunch, and you have no real order to them, so you couldn't really link them because they're just jumping all through the song. Because you can't go 1, 3, 5, 4, 2. Can't do that. So, say it's okay. You made a bank. They're not in any order, but now you know kind of what order you would like to go. 1, 5. Okay, 9 sounded good after 5, but then I want 3 after that because those sound good in that order. That's totally fine. What you do is simply select. Say you wanted 1 first. Select that scene. You can get out of the chaining. Select it. Go to another bank. Okay. And then funk save it on a new one. Because you haven't changed. You've selected the scene, which is a setup of clips that you like. You said, okay, 1. Now maybe I wanted 4 to be second. Okay, in my instance, because I only have these many. I hit 4. These are the scenes or clips that are set up to, active. The track's active. If you go to clip mode, you'll know which clips. Look on your screen. Look whatever you've chosen for your clips. That's 4. So I'm like, okay, 4. I go to bank 2, and I say funk 2. Now I've put 1, 4. It says 2, but I took number 4. All you gotta do is load it up. Now I'm on 5. Or maybe I want 2 next. 2, funk 3. So I'm picking the scene I want to play next, or the order I want them to play. I pick the first one, or whatever the first one happens to be. I go to a different bank. I funk it to another scene number. Okay? Because all you're doing is taking that collection of clips that you already loaded by activating that scene and saving it to another scene slot. Okay? Capiche? Make sense? Yeah, more aha moments. I love them. Those are my favorite moments. I love the ahas. All right. How's everybody doing in there? Any other questions about stuff? A lot going on in that one. So let's load up another project. What is this one? Okay, this is more of like a let's see what we got going here. So this project's another one I did. It's like 130 BPM trancey kind of thing, I guess. I don't know what else we got playing with it. Better be careful. that instrument down. I'm sure I got an effect on there that shouldn't be on there. Yeah. Seems like a lot on there. Anyway. This kind of stuff pointed, and then what else we got going here? I can't remember. Oh, maybe I have this going. Sampled off of that. Fun stuff. So here's something, one of the ways I use the looper track when I want to play with a loop. So I took that looper track like I showed you guys in the beginning, and I stretched out that REM is the end of the world, and I took out end of and just put it's the world as we know it, right? And a bunch of reverb and everything on there. So I use this just mainly, I can sequence each one, right? So I did that with the drum track. So now when I play clips, oh, let's do this. And then towards the end, I get the it's the, right? So, great way to use drum tracks for the one samples like I showed you. I just chopped up a sample and then I sequenced them at the spacing I wanted them to be at. Then I use my looper track. See if we have each one here. The first one is right, and here's the second one after this. Just vocal loops. This was originally, if I go in here, not there, where would it be? I don't know how I did it. I pitch shifted it. I'm not going to mess with it, but then here's what I do. I reverse it. This is what I love the looper for, because I can go back and forth and I can so I go back and forth and I can cut it back right here, watch. And that's just that part backwards. Reverse off. And then let it play out. So that's where I like to use the looper, or where I started using it a bit more, is I like finding vocals and then running them backwards. This one was also pitched down. Maybe it was in the edit. whatever. I knew it was at a G minor, so I pitched it into the key. It was a female vocal. That's what I wanted to. Here, pitched it down 5. So if I crank that up to. So that was the original, right? Something off a splice. And one, it wasn't in the key of the song, so I changed it so it was, and it turned out dropping it enough to sound more, I guess, masculine. Right? And then kind of pitch fine-tuned it just a little. I don't know if that did a whole lot, but it made it mine. Made it my sound now. So, okay. That's where I use the looper track. I like to find things and be able to reverse it because that seems to be a fun thing to do on the looper track. You do get chromatic pitching here and fine pitch up on top of this thing to mess with if you want. You know, to play with things. And then, of course, you got your reverb send or delay send. Again, this can be adjusted here. You can change whatever you want them to be. It doesn't have to be pitch. Like, I don't need that, so let's see what else we can make it. Right? Hopefully you guys can see that up there. I don't want pitch shift or fine tune. I don't want reverse. Oh, here we go. There's a chorus on there. Now I can change the rate of the chorus. See what that does. We can. You can kind of hear it in there. Right? Or you can find other stuff to do with it. The rate note, if it was on the depth of the chorus, balance. So you got your effect that's on the track, right? The track effects. So you got chromatic pitching, pitch shifting. That's kind of cool, huh? That could be fun. So, fine tune, chromatic pitch, reverb and delay sends, panning, level, no assign. Right? Or whatever you want it to be. I don't even know what I want anymore. Okay. Maybe I'll do pan and eventually modulate that. You know, do some motion record or something. Who knows? Anyway, now it's something else. You can pan it separately from the delay. That can be fun. Mark, how's the show? Can't believe you're going out all the time, man. I'm kind of jealous. Good show. Anything else? Anyone tuning in, watching? Feel free to comment what you'd like to see. Anything you'd like me to focus on. Again, it doesn't have to be on the 707. I know I was on the 707 group posting mostly, but know that we do have a studio we can look at. Quite a bit in there. I don't know how we could get it all in view, but it's there. Yeah. See if I can keep it from falling again. I don't know what I'm doing with this Jupiter XM I got here. Every time I leave it alone for a minute, or I'm pushing something somewhere, that's resetting the scenes and the right back to the first. A side chained. So we could do like a with it tempo synced through MIDI. There's a side chain. Fun things in there. The I arpeggio is crazy good. As you press, and the more complicated or more or busier that your playing is, the play detector recognizes based off the beat you're playing and the keys, and then adjusts the arpeggio to fit that. It's craziness. Anyway. This is stuff that's just part of it, you know? Crazy. Never ending. Here it goes. One button press techno hit. We got it. I got a hit. Guy J at his best, huh? Ooh, building a new desk. If I was building a new studio, when I built this one, I wish I would have taken in consideration of the depths or thickness of the drywall, so I didn't have to cut my console because it didn't fit in the room. And I can't go longwise in this one. What would I change? The depths is 24 inches deep. It's 8 feet wide, the desk, end to end. I put the shelves in. They were just little storage cubbies in here, but I put the shelves in so you can slide something in and out, right? You fully slide in, come back out. Could be on better rails, but I'm on a budget, you know? And then down below is just record cubbies. They're cubicles for records. You could really do anything you wanted with that, shelving or however you see fit. But and then I did a top deck that covers where the turntables are to make everything flush mounted. So the turntables are flush with the top deck. And then that was nice. And then I didn't have room, so I started getting rails fabricated. These ones, right? Like this rail, just flat bar that I had a guy weld. He's getting me one more for right here for these little lonely buggers, so I can get more stuff up on the wall. But I've been having to go vertical now. Mark, you want one of these? Then, yep. So, that's kind of what I've been doing, and really your top deck is going to be flat. If it's flat, you got lots of room for your stuff. And I recommend hanging your computer from a wall or something above it so it's not taking up table space, horizontal space. But based off of what you might, based on what you're having, I think that would be a good layout for you. I would maybe across the back, instead of, since I was mounting to a wall, if you did like an upper angled shelf at like a 35 to 45 based on your comfort, that would put things up higher, like the boutiques, because they don't really need to be on the bottom. You could just put them side by side on a upper shelf. That'd look really nice. You know what I mean? If they were, if you had like legs and then an upper angled shelf and just had them sitting side by side going down the shelf, that'd look really nice. Clean. And plus everything's there at your fingertips and keeps your keyboards down. Keyboards down on the deck at a comfortable level. Or if you get one nice slide out tray for your Novation launch key, make it one big space so you could slide it out and in. That'd be really nice. Pull it out when you need to play keys and push it in when you don't. That'd be really nice. Yeah, angled shelf is, I always tell people, go at least two levels. Make the upper level a little bit angled so it's facing you and feels ergonomically correct for you. It's all up to heights, based off of your height, and depth is how far deep you want to go. Oops. It's tempting. I don't want to play with it anymore. I better turn it. They're all ARPs. Explorer. I don't want to know. I want to. Euclidean steps. What? Anyway. So, yeah, that's my recommendations, because if you don't have enough room, you end up doing what I'm doing and using turntables as tables to hold your keyboards. Then your mixer's covered up because you gotta type on your computer. So that's that. Yeah, that's that. Any other questions? I was getting around towards wrapping up here, getting into the wee hours of the morning. I'm sure for some of you it's already been the wee hours of the morning. Last couple of things, and then we can kind of tune out from there. I do want to do this maybe once a month, and we could look into other things. I'll have more stuff put together because I really want this area. I'm almost to where I think I like what's up there. I designed for standing because I don't like sitting when making music. I've tried, but I ended up making... I didn't get excited. If I'm standing up, I'm moving, I'm kind of dancing, I'm... you know what I mean? I'm trying to make music to move people, and if I'm not moving, then I scrap it. Unless I'm trying to go for like thought-provoking, contemplative music, or trying to do like scoring or soundscape or something like that, then I might sit. But I like standing because I sit most of the day anyway. It's one of the reasons I went hardware instead of computer. I spend enough time on a computer. I spend enough time really sitting down. I find in front of a computer it's better to sit down instead of kind of stand up. So this is forcing me to be up. And plus, this desk originated as just 2 turntables and a mixer. That's all it was supposed to be for in all my records. But that evolved. So it is what it is until a bigger studio is built where I can separate production section from DJ section. This is how it goes. I'm not complaining. I like it. I like having all... makes me happy, and that's what's important, right? Everyone else, what are you producing with this? I'm producing this. Smiles. So yeah, this, I don't know if anyone saw it. I didn't show much of it, but right here, I got the 505, that Mark II, the VT4, which I want to run into the 505, 404, which I want the 505 to run into. So it's going to be VT4 into the 505, 505 into the SP404. And the other input, I think I want to run, I really want to run like my MX1 out into this just to capture samples of the stuff going through, like my Euro rack and the boutiques. And also it's such a good effects processor. It has so many good effects on there. So I'd like, this is kind of going to be my signal processing rack where I have that little Grand Canyon delay and looper, Zen delay, which is a really nice analog delay with, or I mean it's a delay with an analog filter on it that has a killer overdrive. That's where your analog comes in. It's this nice crunchy overdriven sound. It has different bypass on the filter, low, band pass, and high pass. Got your input level. Delay mode, there's 6 different delay modes. 1 off and 5 delays. And a wet, dry, and a resonance. And I gotta dust this thing, damn it. And then just my classic pedals. Oop. The little Boss pedals. Seems to be a lot of delay up there, I know. I gotta get something else. I'm hoping Strymon will want to send me products. That'd be fun. Okay. 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 Yeah, good fun today. I had a good time. I enjoyed doing this. I do want to find other times to do this. I am working at trying to do like a starting at 6 or 7 a.m. on a weekend and doing that. That'll be, supper time for dinner time for you, Mark. But it'll be a few hours, so you can always have a bite and pop into the studio and have it play around. So, and people with cams, I can always invite you, and if you like talking and, discussions and stuff like that, we can separate the layout so I can invite other people in and have their camera pop up and we can talk together almost like a Zoom thing, very much interview like. But that's for future. I want to make sure this is going to take off, and I want to do this monthly. And if it is starting to become something that's really taking off, we might move it into like the Discord chats and possibly just setting this up for you guys that are dedicated and keep coming back. And I'll do a private thing for you guys where, since you're supporting me, only you'll get the link to these videos to come in, and we can slowly bring others in. But that way it keeps it a little treat for you guys, and we can really focus, come back, have questions about something, say, okay, I got to play with this, Brian showed me this, now I want to know about this. Let me know, and we can try it. Like today we had that fabulous discovery, and we tested A and B about long samples on drum pads, and when you hit stop, how they keep playing and how to fix that. So that was great. This is a very essential thing. You'll see a video for that coming up real soon. That'll put it to rest for a lot of people, and they'll be able to move on and keep playing. So with that in mind, cheers, Noof. Thank you so much. I hope to see you at the next one. Mark, it's always great to have you around. Even though I don't get to see or hear you this time, we are going to set up another session here soon. Okay, you let me know your scheduling. And I always appreciate you, brother. And I got my, oh. I know you'll appreciate this. You'll appreciate this. You might have saw it, but looky. I got it. Yes. No sides, though. So if anyone wants to send me some wood sides, that'd be pretty. First thing I did was set up the SEO2, and then I unplugged it, and I took it right over to the modular stuff. and started running all my modular stuff through it. It sounds lovely. Anyway, because it processes those external sounds quite nicely. So yeah, I got that too, buddy, and that way I'm ready for when you're ready to really start goofing with it. We can run that man, I want to run that TR-06 through it. That'd be pretty sweet. Get it plucking those things out. Perfect. That's right. Yeah, we could definitely do a Zoom if that'd be a lot of fun. Share a bunch of tips and tricks like that kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, I got it because you got it, Mark. Now I got to get it to make sure I know how to help you with it. Stop getting shit. I'm going to send my accountant after you. She can have a word with you. But yeah, no, if that sounds awesome, we'll definitely do something like that. And again, like I said, even on this thing, if you have a camera set up and everything, I can send you an invite to this. You just click on it, and it brings you right into this live stream, mic'd up and everything, and we could share that kind of stuff. It's very, very, very low latency. One of my favorite things about this. So we'll definitely set something like that up. If you guys have my email, send to me. If not, leave me a message somewhere, and we could connect, Noof. That'd be great. And kind of set something up, because I'd like to do it on here, kind of like a Zoom, but it'd be me and you kind of sharing our favorite tips and tricks. And we could set it up as a private video and invite in, people, market it, get it out there for people. It'd be fun. I've been looking for ways to expand on this where it's not just me. So many people have so many ideas that I'd love to hear about and have them share. So I'm here for everyone. It's a big community. With all that said, and the time being 1, 2, 3, 4 over here in Hawaii, I'm going to call it a night. Perfect, Noob. I appreciate that, man. You guys, thank you. 10 of you hung out till this time. I appreciate you. If you didn't catch the whole video and want to see more of it, go ahead and look for it on YouTube. It'll be popping back up as a replay after it does its processing thing. It probably be in the Facebook group as well for a while. I'll try and bookmark it so it stays somewhere near the top so people can sit here for 3 hours and 17 minutes. Okay, that was fun. That was a record for me. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. We're going to tune out here. I love you all. Thank you for joining me. Talk to everyone real soon, okay? Aloha. Thank you, Michael. More to come.